During the morning rush on the subway, I helped a girl who had fallen, but she posted a secretly recorded video online, claiming I was a creep. The whole internet tried to ruin me. My dad's small noodle shop was smashed up, and my mom was so furious she suffered a cerebral hemorrhage. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to 3 minutes before she fell this time. I stared at the strawberry milk in the vending machine and slowly scanned my card. The second bottle is half price. You can even print the receipt. 1. I've been reborn at 8:17 a.m. on June 28th, by the escalator at exit B of Citizens Square Station on Metro Line 3 in Yunqing. In my past life, 3 minutes later, a girl in a white dress would fall right in front of me, the coffee in her hand would spill all over the floor, and her knee would hit the edge of the steps so hard that tears would stream down her face. The morning rush hour was packed with people. Some people went around her, some kept their heads down, looking at their phones, and some, unwilling to get involved, paused for a moment before hurrying away. I was the only one who stopped. I helped her to the side, picked up her bag, and reminded her that her skirt had ridden up to her thigh. With red-rimmed eyes, she said to me, "Thank you." I even replied to her dumbly, "You're welcome, be careful." Half an hour later, I arrived at the company. Just as HR was about to tell me I'd be made permanent early, my phone blew up. An account with 1 million followers posted a video. In the video, I bent down to help her. The camera angle was so sneaky it caught my hand brushing past her waist and then caught me looking down at the hem of her skirt. The caption reads, "I ran into a creepy guy filming women on the subway during the morning rush. He pretended to help me, but he was actually groping me and staring under my skirt." The comments section blew up instantly. "He looks decent enough, so why is he so filthy inside? Guys like this need to be exposed. She's crying this hard. How could it possibly be false? No girl would ever make up something like this to smear someone else." That one sentence shattered every explanation I had. I said I was just warning her that her skirt had ridden up. No one believed me. I said I hadn't touched anything I shouldn't have. No one listened. I said there were cameras at the subway entrance. They said there were too many blind spots in the surveillance, accused me of making excuses, and said creeps always do that. That same night, my name, company, home address, and my parents' noodle shop address were all dug up and exposed. My parents ran a small noodle shop in the old part of town. The place was tiny, with a dozen or so tables and a handwritten menu taped to the wall. Beef noodle soup is 15 yuan, pork intestine noodles are 18 yuan, and fried egg is 2 yuan extra. My dad gets up at 4 a.m. every day to simmer the soup, and my mom handles the register and washes the dishes. They worked hard for over 20 years just to put me through college. In my previous life, the day after the video came out, red paint was splashed all over the shop entrance. A huge poster was pasted on the glass, "The home of a sleazy pervert, the kind of parents who raise a beast." My dad was so angry his hands were shaking. He grabbed a mop and tried to clean it up. People passing by held up their phones and filmed him. That's his dad. He doesn't look like a good guy either. If the son's like that, how clean can the father be? My mom stood in front of my dad and cried out, "My son isn't that kind of person." But no one listened. They just needed a target to direct their anger at. On the 5th day, I was fired from my job. On the 7th day, my mom was cornered by a group of people in the shop. In the scuffle, the back of her head hit the corner of a table, and a brain hemorrhage sent her to the ICU. On the 9th day, my dad went to confront the blogger who posted the video. The other guy was live streaming and kept backing away, shouting, "Look, everyone." His dad's flying into a rage out of embarrassment. My dad chased him to the side of the road, where he was hit and sent flying by a rideshare car. When I got to the hospital, he was covered with a white sheet. My mom still hadn't woken up. I was kneeling in the hallway, calling the subway company over and over, begging them to pull the full security footage. The staff said there was indeed a camera in that area, but the angle could only prove I helped someone up. Not that I wasn't secretly filming. I begged the police to check the original video on her phone, but the girl cried and said her phone had been dropped and broken, and the original video was gone. I only later learned it wasn't gone, it had been cut, but by then, it was already too late. When my mom woke up, she found out my dad had died. That night, she started bleeding again, and they couldn't save her. I looked down from the hospital rooftop. The lights of Yunqing were blinding. I couldn't make sense of it. I only helped someone who had fallen, so why did my whole family have to die in the end? Someone behind me let out a soft chuckle. I turned around. It was Liang Chen, a coworker from my team. He was standing by the emergency exit, holding my employee badge. "She knew. To be honest, you shouldn't blame anyone else either," he said. "There was only ever one permanent position to begin with. Since nothing happened to you, I'm the one who has to go." I felt a chill run through me. He threw his work badge at my feet. "Oh, and by the way, I was the one who told that girl to leave Civic Square Station at this time every day, who told you to be such a good Samaritan all the time." The next second, he turned and walked away. The security gate shut right in front of me. I lunged forward, but my foot slipped. The world spun. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at Civic Square Station. The girl in the white dress hadn't fallen yet. Liang Chen's message was still on my phone. Screen you, can you get here early today? HR said they want to talk to you about your conversion to full-time. I stared at that line and let out a laugh. Get here early, you know, this time. I'll take my sweet time too. I stood in front of the vending machine, looking at the row of drinks behind the glass: mineral water, oolong tea, coffee, strawberry milk. At this point in my past life, I had already reached the escalator. 12 steps ahead, the girl in the white dress would miss the last step of the escalator and lunged straight toward me. Her name was Lin Jixia. Her account was called Xia's Anti-Spy Diary. After I was dragged through online hate in my past life, someone dug up the fact that this wasn't the first time she'd filmed videos like this. She made a living off content like anti-spy filming on the subway, anti-harassment on buses, and spotting pervy guys in malls. Some of it was real, some of it was staged. That video of mine was the beginning of her sudden rise to fame. Later, she went live selling anti-spy chest pins, personal alarm keychains, and privacy screen protectors, and the sales were through the roof. And the one who provided my commute time was Liang Chen. He joined the company in the same hiring batch as I did. I ranked first in performance, first in project defense, and first in probation evaluation. On the surface, he kept calling me brother you, but behind my back, he'd long resented me for blocking his path. I looked at the camera above the vending machine. Good, it was pointed right at me. I slowly ordered 2 bottles of strawberry milk, scanned the code, paid. The machine jammed for a moment. One bottle dropped down, the other bottle didn't fall. I called customer service. Hello, I think the machine ate my item. Customer service asked me for the machine number. I read it out word for word. Citizen Square Station, exit B, machine A017. Yes, I'm right in front of the machine now. The time, 8:18. Customer service said they'd log it in the system and process a refund within 10 minutes, I said. No need for a refund, I'm in a hurry, just issue me an electronic receipt. After saying that, I tapped to print the receipt again. The machine spat out a strip of thermal paper. I tucked it into my phone case, glanced up at the camera, and even waved the bottle of strawberry milk at the lens nearby. A station attendant in a blue vest was tidying up the barrier tape. I walked over. Auntie, could I borrow a pen from the service desk? I'm afraid I'll lose this receipt, so I want to write a phone number on it. The auntie gave me a glance. Go over to the service center. I thanked her and slowly made my way over. A sign on the service center's glass window read, "Travel courteously, board in an orderly manner." A young station attendant was sitting inside. I knocked on the window. "Hi, could I borrow a pen?" He handed me one. I didn't leave right away. I spread the receipt out on the counter and carefully wrote down my name and phone number. When I was done, I asked again, "Can you print an invoice here?" The station attendant froze for a moment. "A drink receipt?" "Yeah," he said. "You have to scan the QR code on the screen at the vending machine." It suddenly clicked, and I headed back to the vending machine. Just then, a scream rang out from the escalator. Oh, the crowd stirred in commotion. I didn't turn around. I stared at the QR code on the vending machine screen, opened WeChat, and slowly scanned it. The page was loading very slowly. So slow. It's so slow it makes me want to laugh. In my previous life, I was just too fast, reaching out too quickly, trusting others too quickly, and throwing myself into the frame too quickly. This time, take it slow, make sure she falls hard and knows exactly why. Keep my timeline crystal clear. I filled in the invoice title, phone number, and email address. The invoice application was successful. 8:21. A crowd had already gathered by the escalator. Someone asked, "Are you okay, miss?" The girl said in tears, "My leg hurts so much. Can someone help me up? Don't just grab her randomly. What if it's a fracture? Should we call 120? Is there a first aid room in the subway station?" I twisted open the strawberry milk and took a sip. So sweet it made my eyes sting. In my past life, my dad always said drinks like this had no nutritional value. Xiaoyu, if you want some, tell dad when you get home. I'll make you red bean milk. It's better than this. I tightened my grip on the bottle. Dad, this time, I'm not going to help. 3 in the end, I still got on the subway, but not the one from my past life. I deliberately missed 2 trains. When the first train pulled in, I stood in front of the service center and asked the station staff if there was a public restroom nearby. When the second train pulled in, I bought a pack of tissues at the convenience store entrance. The convenience store owner asked if I wanted a bag. I said yes. Then he asked if I needed an invoice. The way the owner looked at me was like I was a complete nutcase. "You even want an invoice for an $8 pack of tissues?" I said with a smile. "It's for company reimbursement," he muttered under his breath. Young people these days are really particular. The receipt printer jammed, and he fiddled with it for 2 minutes. I stood in front of the cashier counter, waiting quietly. There was also a surveillance camera above the counter. Good. At 8:29. I tapped through the fare gate and entered the station. The fare gate recorded it. It would remember me. The platform surveillance would remember me. The convenience store receipt will remember me. The vending machine backend will remember me. The attendant at the service center will remember me too. By the time I got to the company, I was already 12 minutes late. Liang Chen was standing by his desk. When he saw me, his expression stiffened. "Wuji, why are you just getting here? HR was looking for you." I put the strawberry milk on the table. I bought a drink on the way, but the machine ate my money, he said. Aren't you usually the one who hates being late the most? I've come around to it today. I opened my laptop and said calmly, work isn't a matter of life and death. Slowing down a bit won't kill you. Liang Chen's mouth twitched. At 10:30, the HR manager called me into the conference room. She smiled and handed me a confirmation of employment. Shinyu, congratulations. I took it, my fingers trembling slightly. In my previous life, I never got this piece of paper before the meeting had even started. I was already being dragged online. I looked at the company's seal on the paper and suddenly asked, sis, if someone were spreading malicious rumors about an employee online, how would the company handle it? The HR manager froze for a moment. Why are you asking about this all of a sudden? I've been seeing a lot of cyberbullying news lately, and it's making me a little scared. She smiled. As long as you didn't do it, the company will cooperate with the investigation, but if the fallout is too great, it also depends on public opinion. See, this is reality, the truth matters, but public opinion moves faster, so this time, I can't wait for someone else to clear my name. I'm going to make sure that the moment the filth is flung out, it hits a wall. 12:17 p.m. The video is here. Lin Jixia was sitting in the hospital corridor, her eyes red-rimmed, with bandages wrapped around her knees. She choked back tears at the camera. This morning during rush hour, I fell at Citizens Square Station. I was really hurt, and I was scared, but there was a man right next to me. He saw what happened, but deliberately refused to help me up. I'm not asking everyone to help me, but he was even looking at me and laughing. The video then cut to a distant shot. In the shot, I'm standing in front of a vending machine, and from the side, I really do look like I'm smiling. The barrage of comments has already started trashing me. Heartless. She fell that badly, and he's still buying a drink. How can people these days be so insensitive? What's the difference between a guy like that and a creep who secretly films people? Both are disgusting. I stared at the video and laughed, just as I expected. In my past life, they said I helped indiscriminately. In this life, they say I didn't help. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Lin Jixia said at the end of the video, I just want to ask one thing. If the one who fell were your mother, would you be this cold too? As soon as those words were posted, the comments section exploded. Liangchen was the first to repost it. It's heartbreaking to see. Kindness shouldn't be a rare commodity. I clicked into his profile. He deleted it quickly, but I'd already taken a screenshot. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, people in the company's internal group started sharing the video. Someone recognized me. I sent that Shinyu from our department. Looks like it really is him. He was indeed late this morning. No way. He always seemed pretty helpful. Liangchen sent me a fake friendly private message. Is that person online? You don't worry, I believe you didn't do it on purpose. I replied to him, thanks. Then I turned on screen recording. He replied again, how did you know I was at Civic Plaza Station this morning? Over there. It showed typing. After going back and forth a few times, he replied, don't you go to work at that station every day? I laughed. Great, the first thread has shown for. At 3 in the afternoon, Lin Jixia went live. The title was Girl Who Fell. Response, I don't want to witch hunt anyone online, I just want an apology. She sat on the hospital bed, her face pale. Beside her sat her best friend, a short-haired girl whose account name was Ali Talk Safety. Ali spoke to the camera, visibly outraged. We're not trying to force anyone to be a good person, but is it normal for an adult to see a girl fall, then still smile and go buy a drink? Lin Jixia lowered her head and wiped away her tears. I really felt helpless at the time. The comments were flooding in. Make that guy apologize, dox him, get that cold-hearted jerk out here. What about his company? They still want an employee like that. Before long, the company's official account was swamped too. The HR manager called me into a small conference room, looking very grim. Shinyu, explain this first, I said. Before I explain, can you first confirm whether the company is planning to fire me? She was left speechless. The department head frowned. Now is not the time to discuss this. First, you need to make it clear. Did you see her fall or not? No. In the video online, you were clearly nearby. Being nearby doesn't mean I saw it. Liangchen sat beside him and said softly, brother if you just hadn't reacted in time back then, an honest apology would have been enough. No one would have kept making a big deal out of it. I looked at him. You want me to apologize? Liangchen sighed. I just don't want this to blow up and affect the company. That sounded awfully nice. It was the same in my past life. Every single time, he would put himself in the position of doing what's best for everyone and gently push me one step closer to the abyss. I pulled out my phone. At 8:18 this morning, I bought a drink from the vending machine. There's a payment record, a receipt, and an invoice application record. At 8:20, I went to the service center to borrow a pen. The station staff can testify to that. At 8:21, I scanned the code to apply for an Invoice, at 8:23, I bought tissues at the convenience store. There's a receipt and security footage. At 8:29, I tapped through the ticket gate and entered the station, and the time she fell, according to the subway announcement in her own video, was 8:20. I projected all the screenshots onto the conference room screen. The conference room fell silent. The supervisor's expression softened. The HR manager immediately said, "Can these prove you didn't go near her at the time?" "Yes," I opened the customer service chat in the subway app. "I've already submitted a request to obtain the surveillance footage. If the police need me, I'll cooperate." Liang Chen's face paled a little. I went on, "Also, the leaked footage only shows me standing in front of the vending machine. It doesn't show the front-facing security camera on the machine, nor does it show the crowd, the ad boards, and the escalator handrail between her and me. This isn't a misunderstanding, it's edited." Liang Chen immediately said, "Wuji, don't be so absolute. Maybe they were just worked up emotionally." I asked, "You know her that well?" He fell silent. I put my phone on the table. "The company can suspend me for now, but I won't apologize, because I did nothing wrong." As I stepped out of the conference room, I got a private message from an unknown sender. "Mr. Shen, I suggest you apologize as soon as possible. Xiaoxia is in a very bad place emotionally right now. If something happens to her, you won't be able to bear the consequences." I stared at the words, can't think straight, and my gaze turned cold. In my previous life, it was the same line. After Lin Zhixia posted her first video, someone in the comments questioned her editing. That night, she swallowed half a bottle of sleeping pills live on stream. Of course, she didn't die. The ambulance arrived just in time. From then on, all the doubts were silenced. If she was willing to die, how could it be fake? That one line was sharper than any evidence. I replied to the stranger, "If she's in crisis, call 911, don't contact me." The other person quickly replied, "You're so heartless." I gave a wry smile. "Yeah, a person with hot blood has already died in a past life." 5. That night, I didn't go back to the apartment I was renting. I went to my parents' little noodle shop. The lightbox sign at the entrance was still on. The 5 characters for Shen's beef noodle shop had turned yellow from the grease and smoke. My dad was bent over in the kitchen, kneading dough. My mom was seated behind the cash register, peeling garlic. When she saw me come in, my mom looked up. "What brings you here today? Didn't you say you were working overtime?" I walked over and gave her a hug. Her hands reeked of garlic as she shoved me away in disgust. "Oh, come on, how old are you?" Still being all clingy, I didn't let go. In my past life, she had been lying in the ICU, half her hair shaved off, her body riddled with tubes. I knelt by her hospital bed and called to her mom. She never answered again. My dad poked his head out from the back kitchen. "What's wrong? Things not going well at work?" I let go of my mom and said with a smile, "I'm officially full-time now." My dad froze for a second, then wiped the flour on his hands onto his apron. "Really, really?" He was so overjoyed he didn't know what to do, and turned to the only table of customers in the shop to say, "Today, extra meat is on the house. My son got full-time." The customer laughed. "Laoshan, your son's made it." My mom said it was a waste, but her eyes were red. I sat in the corner and opened my phone. People online had already dug up my company, but they still hadn't traced it to my parents' shop. I knew it was only a matter of time. In my previous life, it was Liang Chen who used a burner account to leak our home address. This time, I'm not giving him a chance. I registered a new account and turned the evidence I'd prepared into a video. Title: I'm the so-called cold-blooded guy from the subway entrance. Here's the full timeline. In the video, I didn't play the victim, just the evidence. 8:18 a.m. Vending machine payment record. 8:18 a.m. Customer service call logged. 8:19 a.m. Receipt photo. 8:20 a.m. Borrowed a pen from the service center. 8:21 a.m. Invoice request submitted successfully. 8:23 a.m. Convenience store purchase receipt. 8:29. Turnstile entry record. Finally, I included a floor plan of the subway station. From where I was at the vending machine, the spot where Lin Zhixia fell was separated by an advertising light box and the side panel of the escalator. From my angle, I couldn't even see her fall. I added this caption: "If I don't help, I'm heartless. If I do help, I'm a creep. So where am I supposed to stand to not be guilty?" After sending it, I flipped my phone face down on the table. My mom brought over a bowl of beef noodles. "Eat up. I added 2 extra pieces of beef for you." I lowered my head and ate. The steam blurred my eyes. In my past life, I didn't realize how precious this bowl of noodles was until after I lost them. It's not about $15, it's my whole life. 6. My video went viral, not because I sounded especially wrong, but because the evidence was rock solid. At first, the commenters were still being stubborn. "Even if you can't see, shouldn't you still help if you hear something?" Soon, someone used headphones to analyze the ambient audio in the video. The moment Lin Zhixia fell, there happened to be a train arrival announcement and the sound of brakes. I was standing by the vending machine, and there was also a Customer service call right next to me. It's perfectly normal not to hear anything. Someone dug into it again and found that Lin Jixia was no ordinary girl. Her account posted more than 20 anti-creepshot rights protection videos over the past 6 months. At least 6 of them were questioned by the people involved for being edited, but every time she burst into tears, public opinion would turn around and attack the people who raised doubts. Do you have a guilty conscience? If you weren't secretly taking photos, why are you afraid of being exposed? It's already so hard for a woman to seek justice, and you still want to pressure her. For the first time, the tide of public opinion began to shift. Someone in the comments asked, why did she only post the clip of the man smiling by the vending machine? Why not release the full video? Her friend's account has an anti-spy cam brooch listed in her shop window, and it's already sold 30,000 units. Isn't this just profiting from someone else's misfortune? Lin Jixia turned off the comments. Meanwhile, Ailey started a new live stream. Through tears, she said, we just wanted to bring a little more kindness into the world. We never expected to be cyberbullied by a coalition of capital and men. It's just so hard for women to stand up for their rights. With that, she pulled up a screenshot. In the screenshot, someone with the same profile picture as my WeChat was messaging Lin Jixia, you look really good in that white dress. I wait for you at Civic Square Station every day. When you fell, I almost couldn't hold back. The live stream chat exploded instantly. So there's a twist. I told you that guy was shady. He's had his eye on Xiaxia all along. Ali choked up. Xiaxia didn't dare say anything before, for fear of provoking him. Now, we have no choice but to release some of the evidence to protect ourselves. I stared at that screenshot and laughed. Here it comes. The counterattack has begun, they posted. Similar screenshots in my past life too, but back then, I had already been doxxed, fired, and my parents were in trouble. I simply had no energy left to prove the screenshot was fake. This life is different. I opened the WeChat settings and checked my account ID modification history. I've never changed my WeChat ID since I registered the account. However, the WeChat ID in the screenshot had an extra underscore. I then turned on my computer, logged into the notarization platform, and recorded the entire process as screen capture evidence. After that, I called the police. Once all that was done, I sent a message to Liang Qin. Did you take that screenshot? He didn't reply. 10 minutes later, I got a DM from a burner account. Xinyu, leave yourself some room. It's still not too late to apologize. I asked, who are you? The other person replied, someone here to remind you. I sent the chat screenshots to Liang Qin. Wouldn't you know it, the IP of this burner account is in the same campus as the location tag on your moments. Liang Qin finally replied, don't go around accusing people blindly. I typed, getting nervous. After that, there was no response at all. At 10 p.m., the police contacted me and asked me to come in for a statement because I had submitted a report with forged chat logs, defamation, and online libel evidence. My parents insisted on coming with me. I hadn't wanted them to find out, but after my mom saw the video online, her hands were shaking. What gives them the right to talk about you like that? My dad grabbed a rolling pin and headed for the door. I'm going to find them right now. I grabbed hold of him. Dad, don't go. In my previous life, he had rushed out just like this. I clutched his arm tightly. This time, listen to me. My dad froze. My voice came out hoarse. As long as you and mom are doing okay, that's the biggest help you can give me. My mom broke down crying. My dad was silent for a long time, then put down the rolling pin. All right, Dad, listen to you. It was only then that I truly felt, I'm back, not back to June 28, back to when they were still alive. 7. The next morning, the subway company issued a statement. It was brief, but every word landed like a slap. After verification, between 8:18 a.m. and 8:29 a.m. on June 28, passengers stayed in the areas around the B exit vending machine, service center, convenience store, and elsewhere, with complete surveillance footage available. When Lin fell, there was clearly an obstruction between her and Shen, and they did not make contact. We urge everyone not to believe or spread rumors. Once the announcement came out, the comment sections on Lin Jixia's and Ali's accounts completely blew up. No contact. Then what were you implying earlier? Playing the victim and getting burned. Has the anti-spy brooch been taken down? I just bought it. Can I return it? Isn't this obviously deliberate editing? Lin Jixia posted another video. This time, she didn't cry. Her face was pale, and her voice was very soft. I admit it. I was upset at the time and misunderstood Mr. Shin, but I meant no harm. I'm just an ordinary girl who got scared after falling. I hope everyone won't attack me online. She said I meant no harm so lightly, as if the knives that killed my parents in my past life hadn't come flying out of her video. I didn't respond. I was waiting to see the people behind her get anxious. Sure enough, Liang Qin came looking for me that afternoon. He cornered me in the stairwell. She knew. What exactly do you want? I looked at him. That's what I Should be asking you, he lowered his voice, now that you're in the clear and you've been made permanent, why are you still calling the police? Because someone forged the chat records, that doesn't necessarily mean it was them. How do you know it wasn't? Liangchen averted his eyes. I took a step forward. How does Lin Zhixia know what time I go to work every day, which entrance I use to enter the station, and which escalator I usually take? His expression darkened. You suspect me, it's not suspicion. I took out my phone and opened an audio recording. It contained the words Liangchen had said in my past life. Of course, a recording from my past life could never exist. This was recorded in my current life when I was trying to get him to talk. Last night, I used a burner account pretending to be from Ali's team to message Liangchen. She knew has already traced the source of the commute information. Do you still want the remaining payment on your end? Liangchen replied very cautiously. Don't say that online. Aren't we supposed to just make him publicly humiliate himself and not drag me into it? Those 2 lines were enough. Liangchen lunged over to snatch the phone. I stepped back. The door to the stairwell was pushed open. The HR manager, the supervisor, and 2 security guards were standing at the door. I said, "Perfect." Everyone heard that. Liangchen went ghostly pale. He turned to run. But the security guards stopped him that day. Liangchen was suspended pending investigation. The company's legal team contacted the police. I turned over all the chat logs. Liangchen finally panicked. He sent me dozens of messages. She knew. I was just jealous of you. I never expected things to blow up this badly. I never meant to hurt your parents. When I got to the last line, my finger froze. In this life, my parents hadn't been in any accident yet, and yet, he instinctively blurted out the outcome that had only happened in my previous life. Maybe he just knew that online harassment could drag his family into it. Maybe in his past life, he really did stand by and watch it all unfold. It doesn't matter anymore. This time, he didn't get another chance to stand behind the rooftop door and laugh. 8. After Liangchen was taken away, Ali panicked too. She deleted the shop window listings overnight, but netizens had already screen recorded it. The anti-spy pin, the anti-wolf alarm, and the privacy protection stickers were all exposed as unlicensed, low-quality products. What's even more dramatic is that one buyer posted an inspection report. The so-called anti-spy pin was nothing more than a plastic shell with a flashing light inside. The alarm was so quiet it was like a mosquito. Ali's team made nearly 2 million off Lin Zhixia's videos. This is no longer a misunderstanding. This is business. At first, Lin Zhixia still wanted to distance herself from it. She issued a statement. I didn't know about Ali's sales scheme. I'm a victim too. Ali immediately bit back. You approved the script, you chose the spot to fall, and you were the one who told Liangchen to find the guy. Now you're playing innocent. The chat logs kept getting exposed one by one. Citizen Square station is crowded, so it's easy to catch passers-by looking indifferent on camera. Best to find a well-groomed looking guy. The contrast would be stronger. His company is pretty decent too, so exposing him would get attention. If he helps you up, edit it to make him look sleazy. If he doesn't, edit it to make him look cold-hearted. The moment that line was said, the whole internet exploded. If he helps you up, edit it to make him look sleazy. If he doesn't, edit it to make him look heartless. I stared at the screen, yet I didn't feel much satisfaction, because in my previous life, I was chosen the same way, not because I had done anything wrong, just because I happened to pass by, happened to look easy to bully, and happened to be useful. Lin Zhixia lost all her followers overnight. Ali was banned by the platform. Liangchen was fired by the company and is now under criminal investigation, but it wasn't over yet. The social media blogger who killed my dad in my past life appeared. His name is Old Joe Talk Society. In my past life, he stormed into my family's noodle shop while live streaming, forcing my dad to admit he'd failed as a father. My dad chased him out, and that's when the car accident happened. In this life, he's back again. He was standing at the entrance of my dad's noodle shop, phone in hand, with the live stream titled, "Exclusive Visit to the Parents of the Man in the Subway Incident." What's the truth? Really, by the time I got there, my dad was standing at the shop entrance, his face dark with anger. Old Joe shoved the camera right in his face. Your son caused 2 girls to be attacked online. What do you have to say about that? My dad clenched his fists. I rushed over and stepped in front of him. Dad, come inside. Lao Joe immediately got excited. Guys, the main character has arrived. Why are you afraid to face the camera? I looked at him. Have you registered your live stream? He froze. What? I pointed to the newly installed surveillance camera at the shop entrance. You just filmed my parents without permission, interfered with the shop's business, and may be liable for violating portrait rights and causing a disturbance. Lao Joe smiled. See, he's getting flustered. I smiled too. Is that white car behind you yours? He instinctively turned around. So what if it is? You're parked in the fire lane. I held up my phone. Traffic police are already on their way. Old Joe's expression changed, and he turned to leave. My dad suddenly said, "Stop right there." My heart tightened. Dad. My dad didn't rush over. He just stood at the doorway, his voice low and heavy. You people think you can ruin someone's family just by holding a phone. I'm not hitting you today. I don't want to stain my son's future. My eyes turned red in an instant. The traffic police and the local police arrived one after the other. Old Joe's live stream was abruptly cut off, his car was towed away, and he was taken in to give a statement. A bystander posted the whole thing online. For the first time, the comments were on my dad's side. Uncle is so composed, that's what a truly well-bred family looks like. Those influencers who shove their phones in people's faces really needed to be put in their place. My mom hid behind the register, wiping away tears. My dad looked back at her and said lightly, "Why the tears?" "Beef noodle soup went up today, 20 you on a bowl." My mom snapped at him, "All you care about is money, isn't it?" I laughed out loud. The heavy atmosphere in the shop finally lifted. This time around, my dad didn't run after him, my mom didn't collapse, my family was still here. A week later, the police issued a statement. Lin Jixia and Ali were suspected of defamation, attempted extortion, and false advertising. The case is under further investigation. Liang Chen was dealt with in accordance with the law on suspicion of infringing on citizens' personal information and defamation. Lao Zhoukan Society was permanently banned by the platform for repeatedly harassing others and violating live streaming rules. After the statement came out, netizens started apologizing again. "I'm sorry, I insulted you, I was just being swept along by the crowd. I hope you won't lose faith in this world." I looked at those comments and turned off my phone. I waited for an apology that came too late in my past life. I never got it. I got it in this life, but by then I didn't want it that much anymore. The company reinstated me and even sent me an official confirmation of full-time employment. My supervisor patted me on the shoulder and said, "Xinyu, keep up the good work." Liang Chen's desk was empty. His employee badge was still hanging on the partition, never having been taken down in time. As I walked past, I glanced at it. It hadn't stopped. That night, I went back to the noodle shop. There was a long line at the door. Some people even came all the way from other districts just to eat noodles, saying they wanted to support the clean living guy. My dad was grinning from ear to ear. "Xiaoye, how about we change the name?" I asked. "Change what?" He thought for a moment. "Qingbai beef noodles." My mom smacked him on the arm. "That sounds awful." I just laughed. "That's good." In the end, the shop's name stayed the same, but my dad taped a piece of paper next to the menu. It said, "This establishment does not accept live stream interviews. If you're eating noodles, please queue up. If anything happens, call the police first. Even kindness should start with protecting yourself." The handwriting was my mom's, a little crooked and uneven, but it put me more at ease than any trending topic ever could. That night, after we closed up, I helped my dad clear the tables. A child tripped and fell at the doorway and burst into tears. My dad instinctively started to rush out and help. I stopped him. He froze for a moment. I took out my phone and turned on the camera first, then I walked over with him. The child's mother hurried over at once. My dad helped hand over some tissues. I stood nearby, keeping my distance. The child's mother kept thanking us. After my dad came back, he felt a bit uneasy. "Xiaoye, we never used to have to go to such trouble." I put my phone away. "Dad, it's better to be a little more trouble." He let out a sigh. "The way things are," I said, "things don't necessarily get better, but maybe we can stop going in empty-handed." My dad looked at me, then suddenly reached out and ruffled my hair. "My son has grown up." I lowered my head and smiled, something I only learned after paying for it with a life in my past life. In this life, I finally had time to teach them. 10. Before the new school term began, I quit my job at my former company, and not because I was scared. After that uproar, I suddenly realized life shouldn't be all about chasing one full-time position. I signed up for a bar exam prep course. I wanted to become someone who truly understands the rules, not because I believed the rules would definitely save me, but because when others turned the rules into a blade, I knew how to grip the spine of the knife. The day I left the company, the HR manager saw me out to the door. She said, "Xinyu, you're actually pretty well suited for legal work." I said with a smile, "We might end up on the same side someday." As I walked out of the office building, the sunlight was blinding. My phone buzzed. It was a case update notification from the police. The case involving Lin Jixia and Ali had entered the review stage. Liang Chen's family paid a sum of money and asked me to sign a letter of forgiveness. I didn't sign it. His mother called me, crying, "He's still so young. You can't ruin his whole life." I asked her calmly, "What if I'm the one who gets ruined?" She fell silent. I hung up. Not every tear deserves your soft heart. Youth alone can't make up for malice. The vending machine by the subway entrance was still there. I bought another bottle of strawberry milk. This time, the machine didn't jam. The bottle hit the ground with a dull thud. I picked it up, and as I turned around, I saw an old man carrying a large bag, struggling down the stairs. People were coming and going all around. I stopped in my tracks. In that instant, fears from my past life and lessons from this one surged back all at once. I didn't reach out right away. I quickly glanced around. There were surveillance cameras. There was a station attendant. There were other passers-by. I walked over to the station attendant and said, "An elderly person over there needs help. Please come with me." The station attendant nodded immediately. We helped support the old man together. The old man thanked us over and over. I took half a step back and smiled. This time, I still helped someone, but I didn't throw myself out there unguarded. On my way home, I texted my dad, I want red bean milk tonight. He replied right away, I groan. Up like you still drink sweet stuff. Then another message came in, Dad will make it for you. I stared at the screen, my eyes growing warm. On June 28th of my past life, I lost everything. On June 28th of this life, I learned one thing, kindness is not a flaw. The flaw is submitting your kindness for judgment by the wicked. So from now on, I will still choose to be a good person, but I will be the first to step into the light. And I'll remember to turn on the camera. Story 2, there's this rich kid in our dorm who throws money at every problem. $300 for food delivery, $500 for attending classes in his place. Today the rate suddenly jumped. He's offering $8,000 just to have someone run for him in PE class. My brother Bo despises the wealthy. He can't stand that rich kid and forbids me from taking his paid gigs. Yet this same morally upright Bo forced me to work 4 different jobs after graduation just to fund his bride price, all while playing the effortless gentleman in front of his girlfriend. When I was critically ill with no money for treatment, he and my parents claimed they owed me nothing in this lifetime. I died, consumed by hatred for my parents and Bo. I opened my eyes to find myself reborn on the eve of the fitness exam. When the young master asked who'd run the 8,000 meters, I instantly replied, I'll crush it. Bo accused me of having no dignity, saying I acted like a dog for others. I chuckled, can't let pride get in the way of making money, right? Not only did I accept the job immediately, but I also spammed a bunch of bootlicking stickers. Bo was shocked. Look at you, what's the difference between you and a servant? He usually only pays $300 or $500. I'd double check if he accidentally added an extra zero. Besides, with his scrawny build, does his family even have the money to raise such a bean sprout? His attitude was exactly the same as in my past life. Adamant that the young master would never pay $8,000 just to have someone run errands for him, but having lived through this once before, I already knew the reason behind it. Recently, the young master's father suffered a sudden heart condition, forcing him to take over the family business ahead of schedule. Now with billions in assets at his disposal and the need to learn business management, the young master figured he'd worry as little as possible about school matters, and I also knew that not only was the price he offered today 10 times higher than usual, but it would remain so from now on. Bo was jealous of the young master from the very first moment they met, because the young master's life was everything he dreamed of. In our previous life, he held me down and said, Bro, we came to school to study. Even if we're poor, we've got to have some self-respect. I actually fell for his nonsense. Right after graduation, he crafted this elite persona and started dating a rich girl from a good family. To avoid raising her family's suspicions that he was after their money, Bo got his whole family to chip in for his cars, house, and luxury watches. He even squeezed money out of me to buy gifts for his wealthy girlfriend later. He and my parents even encouraged me to take out online loans. In the end, Bo married the rich girl in a grand wedding filled with guests, while I waited in a cold hospital room for medical fees that would never come. Your family isn't answering their phones. You should just check out of the hospital for now. The nurse's face was full of sympathy. The outcome was that I died on the very night my family was overjoyed and celebrating. Faced with Bo's slightly threatening glare, I didn't hesitate for a second and sent the young master another message. Guaranteed pass. Bo was stunned, looking at me as if I were a complete stranger. Jackson, have you been possessed or something? How come I never noticed you were so money hungry before? Bo said with a mix of disdain and confusion. I gave a faint smile. Guess I've had an awakening. Bo crossed his arms. Seems like your moral compass has a low threshold, getting tempted by just 8,000, but have you considered our combined monthly allowance is only 5,000? Exactly, Mom and Dad transfer all 5,000 to your card, while I actually end up with just 1,800. I used to endure this kind of thing without ever pushing back ever since I was old enough to understand. My parents drilled into me that brothers are a unit, and I should always listen to my older brother when we're out. Bo fell silent, his face flushed, and only spoke again after a long pause. Be careful, this could be a compliance test they're running. They quote 8,000 but only pay 250. They see you're compliant and will keep coming back to you. Well, that's not so bad, even if it's just 250, a few more gigs like that and my living expenses will match yours. My retort made him fly into a shameful rage. You turn on your own brother for a few bucks. Don't come crying when you get used and discarded. Thanks for the warning, dear brother. Bo stormed off, slamming the door behind him. He simply couldn't believe the young master would offer that much money. Last time when he saw his classmate pocket $8,000 for running an errand, his eyes nearly popped out of his head like the famous panda at Beijing Zoo. I wonder how he'll react when he sees me getting paid. The young master added me on WeChat and immediately transferred 3,000 yuan. Consider this a down payment. Don't worry about the PE teacher when he calls my name. Just go in my place. I sprang up like a carp leaping from water. You got it. From now on, your business is my business. In this second chance at life, the most important thing is to steer clear of toxic people and drama, and hold tight to that golden opportunity. The next day when the PE teacher called out the young master's name, I stepped forward in his place. Bo grabbed my arm. Are you serious? He hasn't shown up at school for a week. Who are you going to collect from after the race? The young master is dealing with family matters and took a week off. He won't welch on the debt. The deposit's already been paid, Bo sneered, running errands for him right after your own in this scorching 40 degrees Celsius heat. You're the ultimate loyal servant. I shot him a glance. Bro, with all this concern, are you actually worried about me? He froze. I added, if you really care, how about grabbing me a bottle of cola? The classmates around us turned to Bo, noticing he had no intention of buying me water, and started whispering among themselves. I thought he genuinely cared about his brother, but it seems he's just resentful of other success, too. He's jealous that his brother had the guts to take on the job, too proud to do it himself. You can't stand seeing others profit. How can someone be so stingy over a bottle of soda? Absolutely ridiculous. And all he does is make snide remarks. Bo, after the run, sweat was trickling down my calves. I was hot and thirsty when someone handed me a bottle of water. It felt like a lifesaver, but Bo reached out and knocked the bottle over, watching the water spill all over the ground. I was speechless, and the sweat on my forehead kept dripping even more, and to my surprise, it was the class beauty who had offered me the water. Bo feigned innocence with a silly grin. Sorry, Class Belle, I didn't mean it. Besides, how could someone who sells their dignity for money deserve to drink the water you offered? The Class Belle frowned. Bo's face was full of smug satisfaction, thinking the class belle would look down on me too. To everyone's surprise, the class belle retorted angrily, have you lost your mind? A real man knows when to yield and when to stand firm. If there's something you want, you go for it, money included. Jackson is just doing delivery runs. How is that selling his dignity? And you, as an older brother, should be able to communicate even if you disagree with your younger brother. Why does it sound like you're just manipulating him? After saying that, she turned and walked toward the convenience store. The young master had somehow arrived at the playground. Seeing the scene, he stepped aside to make a phone call. Soon, several people arrived carrying a large box. Help yourselves, everyone, it's on me. After saying that, the young master even picked up the finest drink to thank me personally, unlike Bo, who is overthinking things. Our classmates happily went to grab those drinks with packaging we'd never seen before. These are all imported. I only recognize a few brands. A single bottle of this soda costs hundreds. Thanks to Jackson, we wouldn't have been able to get any for ourselves. In the blink of an eye, the class belle came back with a few other girls carrying a case of bottled water, warmly offering it to everyone. She didn't want people to get the wrong idea, but still wanted to help me out of a tight spot. So she actually bought a whole case with her own money. So kind-hearted, as beautiful. Inside is out. Now just about everyone on the sports field had gotten something to eat. Everyone except Bo was glaring at me with pure venom in their eyes. Meanwhile, I stood there triumphantly with a bottle in each hand, savoring the moment. The young master waved his phone at me and said, I just transferred the remaining 5,000 to you. Bo was completely dumbfounded. Thanks, boss. Just let me know if you need anything else. Perfect. Could you grab some documents from the advisor for me? I'll send you the money in a bit. You got it. By the way, just call me Saul, right away. Young master. When I returned with the documents, I spotted Bo waiting for me downstairs from the dormitory. From a distance, he stopped me and asked, did they really give it to you? Yeah, all 8,000, not a penny less. Excuse me, I need to bring these documents up to the young master. Bo scoffed, calling him young master at every turn. Have you actually grown fond of being a servant? Mark my words, he's giving you 8,000 this time to keep you happy, so later he can take advantage of you without even pretending. And is this how you repay mom and dad? Don't forget you came here to study. In my past life, I fell for that nonsense of his and ended up dying young without a penny to my name. You came here to study too, so why are you always skipping class? At least I haven't failed a single course. What about you? Besides, I earned this money fair and square. Why should I give it back? 3. Bo was stunned by my rapid-fire retorts, frozen in place. I'd always obeyed his every command since childhood. When he said jump, I'd only ask how high. The contrast was just too jarring. Seeing him speechless, I continued walking forward. He yelled at my retreating figure, Jackson, answer me this. Are you paying back the money or not? This guy has always been controlling since we were kids. The slightest thing not going his way would send him into a helpless rage. But even so, in our parents' eyes, he's still the perfect son. I stopped and turned back to look at him. If I do pay it back, will you actually split that 5,000 properly with me? He suddenly sneered. Oh, so that's what this is about. Forget about the money. Mom and dad said you don't deserve that much and told me to handle it, meaning I should be grateful if they even gave me 1,800. My heart clenched. But I quickly shook off the self-pity and picked up my pace to witness firsthand how the young master would inevitably take advantage of me, Bo dashed ahead and secured a spot on the second-floor bunk, ready to watch the drama unfold. Back at the dorm, the young master took the documents and immediately transferred another 2,000 to me. The whole dorm was staring at me, their gazes a mix of envy, disdain, and longing. But these days I couldn't care less about what others think. We're all going to die eventually anyway. Having too much shame just makes you die more miserably. Bo snorted and shot the young master and me a dirty look. With no classes in the afternoon, everyone was in the dorm. Riven came in carrying a cardboard box and called out cheerfully, "Come on, try these mangoes. They're a local specialty from my hometown. Just one is enough to fill you up." He then pulled one out and handed it to me. The young master was working on some kind of mind map on his iPad and didn't even look up. "Just leave it on the table. How much do I owe you?" "I'll transfer the money." Riven quickly waved his hands. "No charge. It's on me." In the young master's eyes, everything given by others is a transaction of value. That's the mindset he was raised with. Even today in PE class, when he treated us to ice cream, it was his way of compensating for the ridicule he faced after taking on my request. But the others didn't see it that way, especially Bo. He bent down, pulled a mango from a cardboard box on the floor, and snapped, "Always using money to belittle people. You're trampling on their goodwill. What, are you the only one who can treat others? Us poor folks aren't worthy." With that, he peeled the mango and started eating it while sitting in front of the trash can, all the while glancing at Riven. Riven's face flushed bright red. What had been a perfectly good atmosphere was now completely awkward. The young master always ignored Bo and never spoke to him directly. He simply pulled out his phone and transferred money to Riven, saying, "This mango looks good, even better than the ones I used to have at home. Is 500 enough?" The sincerity in his words helped ease Riven's embarrassment. Riven waved his hand dismissively. "No need to pay, this is my treat. With the economy being what it is this year, we couldn't even sell our mangoes to fruit wholesalers without taking a loss." Hearing this, the young master simply went, "Oh." Seizing the opportunity to stir the pot, Bo chimed in, "They'd rather pay 500 just to shut you up." Riven processed the refund. "Just keep the mangoes, I've sent your money back." What young person doesn't have some pride? Riven's expression darkened. Seizing the moment, Bo pulled him onto the balcony and started whispering, "He's trying to isolate me and the young master." Although Riven didn't comply as he'd hoped, after this incident his attitude toward the young master and me became noticeably colder. The young master didn't care, and as someone who's been given a second chance at life, I cared even less. Besides focusing on classes, I just waited for the young master's assignments. By the end of the week, my bank balance had grown by another 10,000. Everyone was busy with their own things tonight, so the dorm was really quiet. Riven came back after taking the call, unable to contain the excitement in his voice. "Saul, Huayao is your family's multinational supermarket chain. They bought up our entire village's fruit harvest for the whole year." Riven's dad called to say their village's entire annual fruit yield had been purchased, with next year's already fully booked. The young master paused his studies and gave a polite smile. "The mangoes are excellent quality." There wasn't a hint of condescension in his words, just genuine appreciation for the fruits of Riven's family's labor. Riven was deeply moved. The young master's habit of spending freely was instantly reframed, not as mere convenience, but as thoughtful recognition of others' hard work. It's definitely not the pretentiousness and self-importance that Bo keeps emphasizing. Instead, the other roommates Bo recently tried to win over started gossiping behind his back, wondering if he's the one who's actually off. Young master isn't that bad, right? Overall, his way of handling things is better than Bo's, don't you think? Yeah, Bo's always buttering people up left and right, but when things get real, he bails fast. All talk, no action. Come to think of it, I realized Jackson is actually quite perceptive. Bo and I arrived at the dormitory entrance at the same time, and the gossiping group immediately fell silent. The young master happened to be leaving. Just then, I stepped back to let him pass first, and Bo immediately rolled his eyes. In his eyes, even basic courtesy was now equivalent to bootlicking. When I woke up from my nap, Bo was standing at the door talking with people from other dorms. Both guys are from our village. We used to get along well, but lately they've been deliberately keeping their distance whenever we cross paths. No need to ask, Bo's been spreading his propaganda again. He pointed at the rich kid who'd returned to the dorm. "That's the one, paid thousands to strip my brother of his dignity and backbone as a man." "It's 20,000, I added. "Can't blame your brother. That's a seriously generous offer." "Honestly, I'd do the same." Bo froze, completely thrown by this unexpected reaction. It's not that he doesn't understand the power of money, but he's too full of himself, always thinking his opinions can sway others. The young master ignored the others, walked straight up to me and asked, "Can you cover my elective class for me tomorrow?" "Probably, because I'm diligent and reliable. The young master has been coming directly to me lately." The young master thought for a moment. "Is 10,000 enough? You seem pretty strapped for cash." He glanced down at my worn-out Nikes. No wonder he's fit to run the family business. Quiet but observant, he could tell my clothes were hand-me-downs from Bo. I was about to say something when Bo cut in. Some rich kids really think they're philanthropists. Why? Aren't you helping all the other broke students at school? He's at least got 1,800 a month. Hearing this, the usually aloof and reserved young master gaped. How much did he say? 1,800. How could that possibly be enough? He turned to look at Bo. You're brothers, so that means you're also, ding. The young master was probably thinking, to think there are two people in our dorm living such pitiful lives. Bo was caught in a dilemma. He didn't want the young master's pity, and even less. Could he reveal his parents' unfair treatment in front of his fellow villagers? The boy at the door said doubtfully, wait, that's not right. Last time my dad and your dad were chatting, he mentioned sending you 5,000 every month. At those words, Bo's face turned even more miserable than death. His father used to be a teacher and valued his reputation dearly. He would be mortified if people found out he didn't treat his children equally. The young master chuckled. I've heard of favoring sons over daughters, but favoring sons over other sons, that's a new one. You're handling all my elective courses this semester, that'll be 50,000. A payment notification chimed instantly. Bo's face turned ashen. The fellow villager who had finished watching the commotion patted him on the shoulder, stood up, and said, I told you your brother has always listened to you since he was a child. How could he turn bad? Turns out it was your own family that drove him to it. Another fellow villager chimed in with a sigh. Besides, Jackson is making an honest living. The way you talk about him here makes it sound like he's selling his body. Be more generous. You're already taking more for yourself, so don't cut off his source of income. Bo froze on the spot, fuming with anger. The young master asked kindly, 3,200 a month really isn't that much. Is there anything you could do to help me out? Bo was so furious his teeth were chattering. Get out. A faint smile played on the young master's lips, and only then did I realize he was being sly as 04. Bo's rage wasn't just about his hatred for the young master anymore. It was also because I was completely beyond his control now. His blanket glowed all night long, probably because his inner fire was so intense it kept him awake. The next day he texted me, don't say I didn't warn you, Linda's not into guys like you. Linda was the girl I had a crush on in my past life, but in this lifetime, I'm not going down that road again. I didn't reply and just kept drilling my vocabulary flashcards. My reaction infuriated Bo. He rolled out of bed, threw on his new clothes, and stormed out. After evening self-study, Riven and I spotted a familiar figure near the grove. The other silhouette looked just as familiar. It was Bo and Linda. Riven was even more outraged than I was, pulling me along to confront Linda and Bo. Last semester, Linda accepted all the gifts I gave her, and we even hung out a few times. From a guy's perspective, that's basically a situationship, but Linda didn't see it that way. When things blew up in my previous life, she pointed at me and yelled, when did I ever agree to be with you? You're the poorest among all my backup options. Either stay friends with me or get lost. In this life, I couldn't care less about what Linda thinks, but Bo keeps trying to prove to her that I'm not worthy of her affection. He'd do anything for a quick buck. Probably wouldn't even hesitate to lick someone's shoes if they paid him tomorrow. Linda looked puzzled. Is Jackson that hard up? He always seems quite generous when buying me things. It's all an act. He only gets 1,800 a month for living expenses even if he gave you every cent. How far would that really go? Besides, guys know how other guys think. Once you're together, he won't treat you the same way anymore. Linda seemed unfazed by Bo's remarks. Instead, she covered her mouth with a soft giggle and asked in a gentle tone, what about you then? With that, she casually rested her hand on Bo's thigh. Bo's voice trembled as he said, I have more money than him, plus savings. I can spend it all on you. Linda covered his mouth with her hand. No need to say it now. I judge by actions. Bo, ha. That smile was the harbinger of his bank account hitting zero. Riven was fuming beside me. I patted his shoulder gently and said, don't sweat it. This world ain't worth the trouble. Let's head back. You're not even going to confront them. Why would I interrupt the perfect match? A bitch belongs with a dog. They're made for each other. You want me to snatch the bitch just to get bitten? In her past life, every one of Linda's backup options met a tragic end. Just you wait. Bo's golden days are yet to come. Ever since returning to the dorm that day, Bo's phone became permanently attached to his hand, occasionally playing Linda's voice messages out loud. You're probably the highest scoring resident in your dorm. Overall, Jackson's so tacky. Riven looks like a country bumpkin, Kuyeming has zero class, and Chinyuan just comes off as creepy. Bo held his phone like a rooster that had just won a fight, slowly scanning his eyes over everyone in the dorm room. But who cares what some gold digger thinks? Nobody paid him any mind. Bo thought we were just biding our time, and the smugness on his face was practically oozing from his pores. He asked into the phone again. You still haven't mentioned Saul. Oh right, we left the young master out all by himself. Go on, tell me. No reason, I just want to know what you're thinking. Hey, I'll treat you to a fancy meal tomorrow. Bo bared his teeth and sent another message. A moment later, a reply came through. Ugh, Saul has zero masculinity. He's exactly the type I can't stand. Bo shot the young master a provocative grin. The young master curled the corner of his lips. In some ways, The young master was quite stingy, he wouldn't even spare much of an expression for those he looked down on. But the very next day, as the young master and I passed by the girls' dorm, Linda enthusiastically waved both hands at us. Her movements were so exaggerated that her pleated skirt nearly failed to cover her backside. She acted as if I were invisible, beaming exclusively at the young master with a radiant smile. "Saul, come to my place this weekend to celebrate my birthday together, just the two of us." 5. Her expression carried a hint of bashful charm. "If Beau saw you like this, he'd probably be furious." The young master smiled and asked, "Will you wear an even shorter skirt than this later?" Linda blushed instantly, then gave a slight nod. The young master chuckled again and said softly, "I don't associate with foolish and wicked women. It would disrupt the family's feng shui." As I left, I glanced back at Linda and saw sheer bewilderment written all over her face. A girl like that doesn't even deserve respect, let alone affection. The young master's calm remark made me realize he just stood up for me. Justice. Indeed, when Beau came back that evening, he went on a rant to himself. "What kind of buffet charges $799 per person, and a student ID doesn't even get you a discount? This is ridiculous. Do girls these days all think they're the queen mother of the West's own daughters or something?" Riven shot him a glance. "You made your bed, now lie in it." Beau. In the days that followed, Beau kept spending money on Linda, while I kept making money from the young master. I had saved up nearly 100,000 yuan before heading home for summer break. I don't know how much Beau spent, but he had the nerve to ask me to book his high-speed train ticket. Last New Year, Mom accidentally let it slip while praising him, saying he was so capable that he'd already saved over 100,000 yuan right after starting college. 100,000 of that was our parents' lifelong favoritism toward him. Beau knows how to work the room better than I do. He's better at making a good impression, and he's more articulate. Meanwhile, I just call it like I see it and keep my head down working. My parents say I'm not as sharp as he is, and they've pretty much given up on me supporting them in their old age. I don't have money to spare, I said coldly. I refuse to believe Linda managed to bleed that penny pincher dry in just half a semester. Fuming, he ended up buying his own ticket and leaving first, while I made a cool 5,000 just for helping the young master with his luggage. The moment I pushed the door open at home, I heard my parents tearing into me together with Beau. Just then they turned and saw me, immediately launching into a torrent of scolding. Never mind whether I was hungry or if my luggage was heavy. "Jackson, have you no backbone? Your parents are retired teachers. For heaven's sake, people would laugh if this got out." "That's right, Jackson. Was the money your father and I gave you not enough?" I was too exhausted to speak and went straight to the table to eat. Beau curled his lips and said sarcastically, "He treats me the same way at school. Mom and Dad thinks he's hit the jackpot with some powerful connection and doesn't give a damn about us anymore." I kept shoveling rice into my mouth. Dad reached over and snatched my bowl away, fuming. "Have we ever treated you poorly in this family? You're not eating another bite until you explain what's going on today." I slowly lifted my head to meet his gaze and said, "Dad, didn't you always say my brother and I were equal? Then why do we get different allowances? All this fuss over something so trivial. You're dragging our family name through the mud. All this for nothing, so casually dismissed. When it comes down to it, they only care about saving face." Seeing his father's anger, a smug grin flickered across Beau's face as he added, "You must have made tens of thousands this semester, right? Why not hand it over to show some filial respect? That might just balance out your mistakes and calm Mom and Dad down." The mention of tens of thousands visibly startled both parents. After a brief silence, a glimmer of anticipation began to surface in their eyes. I stood up and retreated to the bedroom. In my past life, I handed over every penny I earned to my parents, only for them to spend it all on Beau. I've already repaid their so-called parental devotion with my life. This time, they won't get a single cent from me. Staying silent and resisting only leads to being ignored, and given the cold shoulder, dinner was barely enough for 3. When I got hungry around midnight and ordered takeout, the food still hadn't arrived after over an hour. I called the delivery guy, but he insisted it had already been delivered. The smell of luocefen hit me as I reached Beau's room, and I noticed the oily sheen still glistening around his lips. "How dare you eat my food?" Beau looked genuinely baffled by my accusation. "This was yours. I thought my girlfriend ordered it for me. How about I ask my mom to whip up some noodles for you?" He did it on purpose, fully aware that Mom wouldn't get out of bed just to make me a midnight snack. When we were kids, every time he said he was hungry, Mom would get up and cook noodles for him, even in the middle of the night. But if it were me, she'd just tell me to eat some crackers. Fortunately, when I was reborn, I gave myself a reality check. Never expect anything from anyone, even those who consider themselves the world's best parents. Beau's words no longer upset me, so I simply went to the kitchen and boiled some eggs to fill my stomach. Seeing how emotionally composed I remained, Beau actually seemed somewhat frustrated. Early the next morning, the young master called asking me to accompany him on vacation, saying he needed my help with something. "He's making me waste a whole month for 100,000 bucks. Beau overheard this and immediately yelled to our parents at the top of his lungs, "Mom, Dad, Jackson's turning gay. Our parents rushed over and quickly covered his mouth. Keep your voice down, what's going on? Bo pointed at me. That rich kid wants him to stay at his summer villa for a month and is paying him 100 grand. 9. You're always criticizing me, but I bet Linda's already drained your savings. Even so, has she actually admitted to being your girlfriend? My parents have always been advocates of frugality. Hearing that Bo had spent over 100,000 on some unrelated woman pained them deeply. They both turned to look at him, waiting for his explanation. She did admit it. Besides, she does care about me. I haven't spent all the money. What a lovesick fool. My parents bought his story and started showering him with praise again. They even proactively asked if he had enough money for dating. Just tell me if you need more. Son, bring her home soon. Aim to get married right after graduation and give us a chubby grandson. 6. Now I understand even better why Bo is so good at winning over parents. Since we were kids, he's always had a knack for pushing all the right buttons with my parents. In our family, marriage and grandchildren are the ultimate gold stars. Even just hearing he's dating someone, no matter who, they'll instantly imagine the perfect daughter-in-law. My parents cheerfully slipped some cash to Bo while giving me a look of exasperated disappointment. The next day, Bo and I both wheeled out our suitcases. My parents told Bo, have fun with your girlfriend, and if you need more money, just ask us. To me, they said, if you dare go, we're cutting ties. I'd gladly wash your feet every day for 100k a month. Yen master, anything beats staying at home and being treated like dirt. You didn't send a driver for me. At least have someone show me around first when I arrive. The villa is massive, with all sorts of activity rooms scattered around the property. Renting this place must cost a fortune. Well, so the Yen master just bought it outright. Poverty really does limit one's imagination. Just as I was wondering what I was doing there, I noticed there were 6 or 7 other people in the villa besides me, each responsible for cooking, cleaning, security. I spread my hands and asked the Yen master, then what about me? What's my role? The Yen master said with a serious expression, my physical condition isn't great. Don't you know Bajuanjin? And there's also military-style boxing, badminton, basketball. You're in charge of teaching me these to improve my fitness. You got it. I'll make sure you master every bit of it. The Yen master settled me in a bedroom on the 2nd floor. The room was clean and tidy, equipped with a fridge stocked with drinks, an en-suite bathroom, and even a massage chair. This is way more comfortable than home, and no one's nagging at me. During dinner, the Yen master asked if my family would say anything about me not being home during summer break. I chuckled. They won't say anything, they'll just yell at me. After a long silence, the Yen master said, some parents bring children into the world but don't know how to love them. That seems to be quite common. I wasn't born to them. They found me. One moment of initiative led to a lifetime of introversion. The Yen master pointed at the screen. Let's just play games instead. No problem. I never expected the Yen master to be such an easy mark. He believes every word I say. A month flew by, and the Yen master was pleased with my training results. He'd gained 5 pounds. His mother even called to thank me personally. And right after hanging up, I received a 50,000 yuan bonus from her. All in all, I've made nearly 250,000 yuan working for the Yen master. Before leaving, he handed me the keys to the villa and said, there's still over a month of summer break left. This place would just sit empty otherwise. You might as well stay here. I waved my hand dismissively. It's too far from downtown. I'm planning to find a summer job in the city, and the commute would be a hassle. The Yen master pondered for a moment, then called his driver over, gave him the keys to the Audi I bought in Gue City. Then he turned to me and said, just keep the place tidy. I'll give you another 100,000 when school starts. A home like that isn't worth going back to. Oh no, the Yen master really thinks I'm not my parents' biological child. And during this time, my parents called twice, and both times the arguments got pretty heated. I scratched my head and said, thank you, Yen master, you're truly kind-hearted. The Yen master rolled his eyes. Don't praise me for that. I'm going to be a big capitalist someday. I took a part-time job at a bubble tea shop. It's no easier than serving the Yen master, but I know perfectly well that people like him are rare. In the end, I still have to live an ordinary life. It was late August, and the autumn heat was relentless. The streets were usually empty, but for some reason, a crowd had gathered outside the hospital across the street while delivering an order to the fruit shop. I took a quick glance as I passed by. I wish I hadn't looked. When our eyes met, I almost didn't recognize the girl. Isn't that Linda? She wasn't wearing makeup and had a mask on, but her cursing was still crystal clear. Who else could it be? We just checked into a hotel last month. Are you trying to deny it now? From the looks of it, she must have come to the hospital for an ultrasound. The guy standing across from her had this total punk vibe. He took 2 steps back and said, Don't you dare pin this on me. With all the other guys you've got lined up, why does it have to be me? I used a condom. As more and more people gathered to watch, I made a quick exit before Linda spotted me. After the crowd dispersed, Linda looked around and then, 5 minutes later, sent me a WeChat message asking if I had just been hanging out near the city hospital and if I'd seen a shop assistant who looked a lot like me. I didn't reply. Answering that would have just opened a whole new can of worms, and who knows what other trouble was waiting down the line. I scrolled through Beau's social media and noticed he hasn't posted anything since sharing a heartbreak song half a month ago. Looks like Linda really drained him dry this time. A few days later, when my summer job ended, I went home to get my school supplies and heard Linda's voice as soon as I stepped inside. "It's definitely yours. Now you need to figure out how to get me the money for the abortion." Linda's voice was choked with tears. I was caught in a dilemma, unable to advance or retreat, so I just stood by the door, waiting for them to finish talking before going in. Beau's voice trembled as he asked, "How much does an abortion cost?" 10,000. I just looked it up on Baidu and it says it only costs 6,000. How can you still try to rip me off at a time like this? Linda retorted angrily. "Rip you off? When have I ever done that? You're the child's father now. How can you say something so hurtful?" All right, my bad, but I don't have 10,000 right now. That 2-week trip we took cost over 100,000, and I still have 100,000 in online loans to pay off. Then go borrow more. Linda's voice became hysterical. Beau lost his temper and yelled, "Like hell I will." Linda froze for a moment before bursting into tears. Beau fumbled to comfort her. "Don't cry, baby. Let's make up first." "Of course we need to make up. Who else would go with me to the surgery? Maybe you should keep it. Have the baby. Fuck you, you bastard." Beau, text, asterisk. $#. Linda's repertoire of curses is truly breathtaking. If it weren't for Beau, I'd never have had the chance to hear such impressively creative profanity from a delicate-looking girl. Amid the commotion, my parents rushed back at the noise, and I followed them inside. They were overjoyed when they found out Linda was pregnant. Now it's 3 against 1, all trying to convince Linda to keep the baby. Linda's delicate, refined face twisted in rage as she screamed, "Are you insane? Take a good look at yourselves. Beau's already a loser with no money, and now he's drowning in over 100 grand of online debt, and you want me to have his baby? What do you take me for?" Beau tried to cover Linda's mouth, but she bit his hand hard before he could stop her. My mom snapped when she saw Beau getting bitten. She rushed over and slapped Linda across the face, but Linda didn't back down at all and shoved my mom to the ground. 7. What happened next was even more brutal. My dad pinned Linda's arms. My mom yanked her hair, and Beau, eyes blazing with rage, slapped her repeatedly. The air filled with a chaotic mix of roars and screams. Through the window, I saw neighbors gathering one after another. Let's be honest, who can resist a good spectacle these days? Beau quickly dragged Linda into the bedroom, where screams and the sharp sound of slaps continued to echo. It was impossible to tell who was on the receiving end of the blows. After sending the neighbors away, my father came into my room, rubbing his hands together. "Jackson, how much money do you have on you? Given the situation, don't you think you could spare some cash to help your brother out?" Noticing my silence, my mother chimed in, "Jackson, could you spare just 100,000, just that much? Your father and I will figure out the rest." I picked up my belongings and said coldly, "No money, not convenient, won't help, I've got things to do." My father's expression darkened as he blocked my path. "You earned that money so easily, why can't you help out your own family?" "That's right, Jackson, he's your own brother. How can you stand by and do nothing? Once we pay off these online loans and this girl gives him a son, your father and I will focus all our attention on you." They said my money came too easily, and then dangled empty promises in front of me. The scene felt all too familiar, like a haunting echo from a past life. The trust one placed in them back then marked the beginning of my downfall, and now, I walked away without a single glance back, leaving them to their hysterical ranting and cursing behind me. On the first day of school, I ran into the young master in the dorm. He pulled out his phone and transferred 100,000 to me. For once, Beau didn't make a sarcastic remark about me. He looked haggard and completely drained. Linda didn't show up for registration, and the whole school is buzzing about her disappearance. Some nosy classmates came asking Beau about it. At first he was evasive, but later, whenever someone brought up Linda, he'd snap back, "We weren't even dating. Why the hell should I care if she disappeared?" My parents still occasionally call, either demanding or threatening, trying to get me to give money to Beau for his loans. I refuse every single time. Meanwhile, the young master keeps dumping extra work on me like before, even having me do part-time planning at his family's company. It wasn't until I got there that I found out the campus belle was working there too. She was always the most practical marketer in our department. No wonder the young master invited her to intern as a sophomore. Now she co-manages the planning department with the young master's girlfriend. Though I'm technically her subordinate, she never looks down on me and actually treats me quite well. Word quickly spread among her classmates that she had become a planning director at a publicly traded company during her sophomore year, with a monthly salary of at least 30,000. It was No wonder the news became the talk of the town. Bo started getting close to the class belle, pulling out all the stops to win her over. Unfortunately, running low on resources, he could only bring her steamed buns every morning. He was convinced that his persistent efforts would eventually win over the class belle, who wasn't materialistic. To his surprise, she calmly turned him down for half a month straight. Others might not see it, but I know exactly what he's betting on. He's gambling that the class belle might be the type to shower her boyfriend with money out of blind devotion, but I've seen how she operates at work. Rational, efficient, professional. There's no way she'd be that foolish. Gradually, I realized her appeal went far beyond just her looks and figure, possessing wisdom and foresight beyond her years, yet completely free of arrogance. Marrying a woman like that would be the luckiest break in 1,000 lifetimes. Bo grew as frantic as a monkey on a hot griddle when the class beauty remained unmoved, his sleepless nights spent scrolling through his phone as his online loan interest kept snowballing. That day I took on a 5,000 yuan class substitution for the yen master. After hesitating for a long while, he pulled me onto the balcony when no one was around. "Can you give me this job?" I chuckled. "Sure." He immediately broke into a grin. "That's what brothers are for. How about 250? I'll transfer it after my shift." Bo froze, on the verge of flying into a rage. Just then, someone entered the dorm room, forcing him to suppress his anger. "You want to make money without losing face? Since when does the world work that way? Where's all that energy you had when you were humiliating me? Show it now." TCH never thought he'd actually go ask the yen master for help himself, and he told the yen master, "I have this rare condition that could suddenly kill me." Said if I had an episode while running errands for him, the yen master couldn't possibly shoulder that responsibility. Later, the yen master asked me right in front of our whole dorm room if I was really sick. My face was just pure shock and confusion. What could possibly be wrong with me? I'm speechless. Listening to my conversation with the yen master, Bo was utterly mortified. "Your brother must genuinely care about you to spread such an outrageous rumor." The dorm mates were quietly enjoying the drama until the yen master cracked a joke, making everyone lose it and burst into hysterical laughter. "Well, now it's clear who's more obsessed with money." Right on the mark, the yen master is truly a master of subtle cunning. Just a couple of words from him, and Bo vanished from the dorm without a peep. Bo was nowhere to be seen for the next few days. Rumor has it someone spotted him buying a knife at the flea market. A cornered beast will do something desperate. That's exactly what I was afraid of. I informed the yen master about Bo's debt situation and advised him to stay vigilant. The yen master chuckled. Someone like him would never have the nerve to kidnap me. The yen master's prediction was spot on. Bo truly lacked the courage to abduct him. He targeted the delicate class belle who couldn't hurt a fly, but just as he pulled out a knife to intimidate her, he never expected me to be right behind him. I gave the class belle a signal with my eyes, and the moment she dodged away, I launched a flying kick that sent Bo sprawling. When he turned and saw it was me, his eyes burned with rage, and he charged at me with the knife. He froze after just a few steps, then bolted in the opposite direction. Several police officers gave chase. It wasn't about online loans, but unlawful imprisonment. He was the mastermind, and my parents were accomplices. When Linda was found in the mountain hut, her eyes were completely vacant. I never even dared to imagine the three of them in this scenario. It's absolutely insane. I thought Linda's parents would sue until Bo and my parents ended up in jail, but unexpectedly, they opted for financial compensation instead. Overjoyed by the news, my parents quickly sold off the small village grocery store they were running and paid Linda's parents a sum of money. What shocked me even more was that, in the end, Linda's parents calmly asked Bo if he would like to marry Linda. The word snapped Linda out of her daze. She glared and declared she'd rather have an abortion than marry Bo. "You have no say in this." His father slapped her across the face, the blow shifting her expression from defiance to vacant stupor. Then she broke into a hollow, bitter laugh of resignation. After handling everything, Bo went back to school to take a leave of absence. Before leaving, he saw the class belle waiting for me downstairs at the dorm, holding a lunchbox. Just then, the rich kid came over again, asking if I had enough for the down payment on a house and if I needed to borrow some money. The class belle smiled sweetly and said, "If he agrees to be with me, I can pay for half." Yeah, I have no idea what kind of dumb luck I stumbled into. The class crush has had a thing for me for almost half a year. In her confession text, she said it's because I'm level-headed, driven, and not vain or competitive like everyone else. Bo stood there frozen, watching the whole scene unfold before finally leaving the school, God knows with what kind of feelings. My parents finally gave up on asking me for money and barely called me over the next year. It wasn't until my senior year that Dad suggested I come home when I had time to see my nephew. When I brought the class beauty home, my parents were so thrilled they could barely speak clearly upon seeing her. She was beautiful, poised, gentle, and exceptionally refined. It was a stark contrast to Linda, who was chasing a bare-bottomed little boy around the yard trying to spank him. Bo watched us without saying a word. I turned to look at the boy. The setting sun illuminated his youthful cheeks, and in that instant, his face perfectly overlapped with another face from my memory, the man who called Linda a slut at the hospital entrance. Just then, a neighbor with a few screws loose passed by, pointing at the child. He chuckled. Doesn't look like him, not one bit. Doesn't look like Beau at all. Go on, get out of here. It wasn't until Dad came out and chased him away that I realized the neighbors had been gossiping about this for quite some time. Everyone says the child doesn't look anything like Beau, before the class beauty. And I left. Beau stopped me and asked if I could take him and the child to the hospital for a paternity test. Sometime later, my parents called to say Beau had been arrested. The paternity test had revealed the child wasn't his, and he'd beaten Linda until her face was covered in blood. The neighbors couldn't stand by and watch, so they called the police, although Linda's parents had essentially pawned her off on Beau. Seeing her beaten so badly and learning the child wasn't his, they naturally couldn't let the mother and child stay with my parents any longer. They took Linda and the child away. My parents seem to have aged 10 years overnight. Beau won't be out anytime soon. I moved them into a retirement home. I've done everything humanly possible. After graduation, the class beauty and I tied the knot, moved into our new home, climbed the career ladder with promotions and raises, and embraced all the wonderful blessings life had in store for me. Story 2. 3 days ago, my brother suddenly sent me a text message. There are less than 72 hours before the city will be surrounded by zombies. From this moment on, don't open the door to anyone, including me. I followed his instructions and managed to survive by luck, but then I discovered an even more terrifying secret about my brother. The first time I felt fear was 3 days ago. It all started when I received a threatening message from an unknown number. I will come to your house and kill you. I wanted to call my brother and tell him about it, but his phone was always busy. At the same time, I received the messages from him. My brother is a bit of a science geek, and his whereabouts are very mysterious. He often says some incredible things, and I've long been used to it. I decided to go to the police station and report it. When I reached the first floor, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of two figures overlapping behind the side door, and there were intermittent moans of a woman coming from their pieces of clothing were constantly being thrown out. I felt embarrassed and wanted to look away, but in the next second, I suddenly heard the woman's movements stop. Instead, there was a sound like a wild beast gnawing on food in the empty corridor. This sound was particularly clear. I held my breath and walked cautiously towards that direction. Next, I saw a female corpse with her neck bitten off, fixed to the wall. On her body, there was an extremely terrifying monster. The woman's head rolled out with a gurgling sound and stopped right at my feet. Her bloodshot eyes were still wide open, looking at me. I quickly covered my mouth to keep myself from screaming. From the back, all the hair on the top of the monster's head had fallen off, replaced by large patches of bluish-purple stuff that looked like moss. Its back was arched high, and its bright red nails were inserted into the woman's body, just like a huge turtle lying on a rock. A foul smell mixed with the smell of blood rushed towards me, seeing that the monster was about to be full and turn around. I turned and ran. I didn't dare to wait for the elevator at all. I rushed up the stairs with all my might. I have a weak heart and can't be too shocked. I tried my best to calm myself down, just as my steps were gradually becoming heavier and I was about to call the police. Suddenly, a heavy arm rested on my shoulder. Raven, where are you going so late? The voice-activated light in the dark corridor came on, and I watched as a long shadow appeared behind me. The blood in my whole body seemed to flow backwards. The arm on my body was so heavy that it made me breathless. I didn't know what to do and desperately prayed in my heart for someone to come and save me. What's going on? Why are you sweating so much? I turned my head dully and found that it was actually my neighbor, Auntie Brielle. Auntie Brielle, great, it's you, thank goodness. I finally let out a sigh of relief and thought about whether to tell her what I had just seen. Auntie Brielle also has a heart condition and has been taking medicine. I can't be too straightforward, but I have to get her to take it seriously. What happened just now was too terrifying. There was actually a monster in the residential building, and I had to call the police quickly. Just as I was about to take out my phone, I suddenly heard a sound of swallowing. Then came the second sound of swallowing. I slowly raised my head. I don't know if it was the problem with the light, but Auntie Brielle's face looked extremely pale. Raven, come closer to Auntie, let Auntie wipe the sweat off you. She reached out her hand to me. When her sleeve lifted, large patches of bluish-purple stuff like moss were revealed on her arm. She was the same as the monster that had been gnawing on the corpse just now. At the moment, she was stiffly turning her neck and staring straight at me too. Auntie Brielle, I still have something to do, so I'll go first. My head was buzzing, and I quickly said this and started walking upstairs. There was still one floor left to my home. Every step I took, my legs felt as heavy as if they were filled with lead. 1, 2, 3. I counted silently in my heart. 4, 5, 6. I heard footsteps sounding synchronously behind me. She was following me. My knees almost gave way and I knelt to the ground. I didn't dare to accelerate rashly and tried to maintain a normal pace, but the person behind me was following very closely, as if they would pounce on me violently at any moment. I walked in fear like this. Suddenly, I felt the Footsteps behind me disappear. I don't know if it was because of excessive nervousness, but I felt my scalp itch a bit. Taking this opportunity, I quickly reached the door of my home, took out my key, and turned the doorknob, but the moment the door opened, my pet dog, Coco, barked fiercely and pounced out. I was caught off guard and was knocked to the side and fell to the ground, just as I was about to curse angrily. A black shadow flashed before my eyes. It turned out that Auntie Brielle, who had suddenly disappeared just now, didn't really disappear. She was just hanging upside down on the ceiling and had been following me all the way. The strange feeling I had felt was actually her hanging hair, and just now, she had completely dropped down, right behind me. Her long nails were about to scratch my scalp. If it weren't for Coco knocking me away, I would already be a corpse. I watched as Coco pounced on that pale face that had dropped down. Auntie Brielle's mouth was wide open, and her teeth were bright red. Coco started fighting with her. I didn't have time to stop it. I watched helplessly as my Coco, the Coco that I had raised for 8 years, was directly bitten and torn at by her. Intense pain tore at me, but I had no other choice. I could only hide in my home as quickly as possible. There were heavy thumps outside the door, accompanied by hoarse roars. Auntie Brielle was pounding on the door insanely outside. I was in tears. Coco, I regretted it deeply. I had deliberately not given it the small cookies it loved the most before to make it lose weight. In fact, I had bought a lot, but it would never be able to eat them again. Just thinking that my former friendly neighbor had now turned into a zombie and wanted to kill me made my heart ache even more. I quickly found some medicine and swallowed it, and just then, I received the rest of my brother's messages. The zombie virus has spread rapidly among the population. According to incomplete statistics, 4/5 of the people in the city have already mutated or are carrying the virus. People infected with the zombie virus will have several times more physical strength than usual. Their intelligence remains at the level of an 8-year-old child. They can disguise themselves and lie. The brains of the infected people are completely controlled by the virus, and they can no longer be called human. I have stocked up enough food in my room for you to last a month. Hold on, and there will be a rescue. You must remember that from this moment on, keep the doors and windows tightly closed. Absolutely do not go out. No matter who knocks on the door, do not open it. Absolutely not. After reading the last text message, I completely broke down and burst into tears. Zombie virus factors were detected in my body an hour ago. After an hour of emergency surgery, I'm sorry, my dearest sister. Your brother can no longer protect you, but your brother will always love you. I looked ahead through my blurred tears. The city was brightly lit at night, looking prosperous, but ear-piercing screams were constantly ringing out on the city radio, along with the sound of alarms and the hubbub of voices. A girl was being led across the road by her mother, but suddenly, the woman seemed to lose all her senses and crazily lifted her daughter and started biting her. 3. I had thought that the person who sent the text message saying they would kill me was the zombie Auntie Brielle, but 3 days later, my brother, who was clearly dead, suddenly appeared outside the window. Raven, open the window and let your brother in. My brother's twisted face was pressed against the window, and his eyes were wide open, shining with uncontrollable excitement. Aren't you the one who misses your brother the most? Didn't you say you had a lot to talk to your brother about? Let your brother in, and we siblings can have a good chat. No, you're not. I stumbled back 2 steps. Don't come any closer. What do you mean, not? His voice suddenly became sharp. Open the window for your brother quickly. Do you want to watch me die outside? Hurry up, you ungrateful thing. Open the window quickly. I could only shake my head desperately at him, but suddenly, his gaze fell behind me. Sister, what's that shadow in your bedroom? For, it's true, there's a figure sneaking behind your bedroom door. He's been peeking at you just now. My brother outside the window had his eyes wide open. Open the window quickly, sister. Your brother will go in and teach that bad guy a lesson for you. The once handsome face of my brother now showed the excited expression of a child. His skin was deathly pale, and there were faint black-purple blood vessels showing through it. I looked at this face with a hurt expression. God knows how much I wanted to let him in and hug him tightly, but my reason told me that my brother was already dead. The one outside the window was no longer him. Stop wasting your efforts. Lying to me is useless. I heartlessly found a large cloth and covered the window. Then I sat on the sofa and planned to play a game to distract myself. Games consume a lot of data. I turned on the Wi-Fi and was about to connect when suddenly, I saw an extremely unfamiliar hotspot in the wireless list. Wangiofi 520. It had full signal. My hand froze in midair. Besides my home's Wi-Fi, only this unfamiliar hotspot had a full signal. Even the neighbor next door, who is the closest to my home, only had 2 bars of signal. So, I thought of that threatening text message from 3 days ago again. I met Auntie Brielle in the corridor, and it was probably just a coincidence that she was chasing me. In fact, there really was an uninvited guest in my home. Just thinking that I might have been living with a stranger for several days made me shiver. God knows what that person would do after I fell asleep. At the moment, I was leaning against the sofa with my back to the bedroom, and my back was already soaked with sweat. The air was terrifyingly quiet, the ticking sound of the clock Hands turning and the rumbling sound of the water dispenser heating up became louder. I wanted to use these sounds to cover up my movement of standing up and going to another room, but I ignored the fact that if I could think of this, someone else could too. In the next second, a pair of hands suddenly grabbed my neck from behind. I suddenly screamed and jumped up, and the person behind me seemed to be even more timid than me. His hands immediately withdrew. The boy was probably 15 or 16 years old. His lips were pale due to days of hunger, and his eyelids were drooping heavily, opening and closing intermittently. Only then did I see clearly that this was the little grandson of the grandma downstairs. Cassius, water. The boy seemed to be hallucinating. He opened his mouth, his eyelids rolled up, and he fell to the ground. I looked at the hungry teenager lying on the ground and thought again and again about whether to throw him out to feed my brother. After a few seconds, I resigned myself to picking up the water kettle and pouring him a glass of water. 5. Cassius woke up slowly. I kindly took out half of the food that my brother had stocked up for me and gave it to him, but I don't know if he was too hungry or what. He picked up Coco's dog food beside him and stuffed it into his mouth. Eat slowly, considering that Grandma Madison had been very kind to me before. I didn't hold it against him for his attempt to harm me just now. Fortunately, my brother had bought me a large cabinet full of bread, milk, ham sausages, yogurt, steaks, compressed biscuits, and so on in advance. Otherwise, I would have felt a bit watching him eat. Cassius wolfed down the food. After a while, with his mouth full of dog food, he said, "I'm sorry, sister, I was really starving. Just now, when I heard the sound of the water heater, I instinctively walked out. Then I mistook you for a steamed bun and wanted to take a bite. I'm really too hungry." When I smelled the aroma of meat in your house, I climbed in through the ventilation duct. I swallowed my anger with good grace. "It's okay, then what about your grandma? Do you want to take some food back for her?" "My grandma." Cassius stopped chewing. A confused look appeared in his eyes. After a while, he said sadly, "My grandma is missing. Just the day before yesterday, we had eaten all the food at home. She said she was going to the street to buy some vegetables. Later, I was so hungry that I couldn't stand it and fell asleep. When I woke up, it was already midnight, but my grandma still hadn't come back." Cassius earnestly took my hand. "Sister, I'm scared. You've seen the current situation. I really don't dare to go home alone, but I'm afraid that if my grandma comes home and doesn't see me, she'll go crazy. I beg you to accompany me home and take a look." Unable to resist the boy's repeated pleas, I agreed. Before going out, I secretly put a Swiss Army knife that my brother had brought home before into my pocket. 6. When we arrived at Cassius' home, a musty smell caused by poor ventilation hit us. There was also a faint fishy smell. The room was very dark. I took 2 steps inside, and then Cassius fumbled to turn on the light. As soon as the light came on, I saw that I was stepping on a patch of dark brown. There was a long stream of red flowing out from the refrigerator, which had already wound its way to the door of the bedroom. I turned my head and just happened to meet Cassius' expressionless face. "When did he get so close to me?" "I'm sorry, my grandma is too thrifty. She always turns off the power switch, and that's how the things at home got broken." Cassius opened the refrigerator with a helpless look. Sure enough, there were some spoiled pieces of meat inside, and the blood that had flowed out had already solidified. After looking at it for a few times, I couldn't help but want to leave. "Grandma Madison probably hasn't come back yet. Let's go." "Wait a moment," Cassius suddenly said. "I'll pack some things, sister. Please wait for me a moment." After saying this, he turned and went into his room. The light in the living room was on, but it was still very dim. I didn't want to stay in this creepy scene any longer and instinctively entered a bedroom nearby. This bedroom was obviously where an old person lived. The windows were completely blocked by curtains, and the light was very dim. I groped along the wall for a long time but couldn't find the switch. It was too dark. So I took out my phone's flashlight to illuminate the area. The pale light swept across the wall, casting 2 distorted shadows on it. 2 corpses sealed with plastic were standing by the wall. There was a circle of black thread sewn around their necks, but their heads were still tilted. This meant that the deceased had been beheaded before their death. Didn't Cassius know? No. How could he not know? He had only been away from home for 2 days. But judging by the degree of the body's waxification, it must have been at least half a year, and one of them was an extremely short and hunched old person. It was Grandma Madison. I shuddered all over at this moment. Cassius' eerie voice came from the living room. "Sister, where are you?" 7. There were footsteps coming from the living room. "Here, there's a bloody footprint." The suppressed laughter was almost enough to make one's blood vessels burst. The next second, the door was suddenly pushed open. I hid under the bed, covering my mouth tightly, and watched as those 2 calves moved back. Under Cassius' trouser legs, there were the all-too-familiar bluish-purple scars. He had already been infected by the virus. I never would have thought that the person who sent me the text message threatening to kill me was actually Cassius. A minute ago, I saw with my own eyes 2 corpses. One was Grandma Madison's, and the other was so severely waxified that I couldn't tell who it was, but both of them had been beheaded. And this was a common modus operandi of zombies, so the zombie virus had already appeared half a year ago. Cassius, you've hidden it so well. The Cassius at this moment was no longer the shy teenager who used to live downstairs from me. His brain had been completely gnawed away by the virus, and now he was just a zombie. I clenched the knife in my pocket. The person in the room seemed certain that I was hiding somewhere. He rummaged through things without getting tired of it and showed no sign of leaving at all. After searching for a while, he walked to the wall and asked the two silent corpses, "Grandma, have you seen Sister Raven?" After a moment of silence, he giggled. "Oh, I see." Sure enough, Cassius' steps were no longer messy. Suddenly, I felt my vision go dark in front of me. I looked up and found Cassius lying on the ground in an extremely twisted position, with his eyeballs almost popping out. A cold breath blew onto my face. "Sister, what are you doing lying here?" I slowly crawled out from under the bed, taking him by surprise. I quickly took out the knife from my pocket and pressed it against the carotid artery on Cassius' neck. It was the first time I had done such a thing, and I was extremely nervous. I tried my best to put on a fierce expression, but I couldn't bring myself to swing the knife down. "You're not Cassius anymore. What on earth do you want to do?" Cassius blinked slowly, looking confused. "You are a zombie." I forced myself to spit out these four burning words with great difficulty, and the person in front of me was still playing dumb. "Okay, I'll ask you, if x equals 1, then what is x?" Cassius tilted his head and looked at me in surprise. "What?" Looking at his completely confused expression, I finally made up my mind and quickly stabbed the knife in. "You're still lying to me. Zombies only have the intelligence of an 8-year-old. Cassius is already in his senior year of high school. The only one who can't solve equations is a zombie." I stumbled back 2 steps, almost in awe of my own intelligence. The virus inherits all the memories of the host, but it can't inherit the host's logical thinking ability. But to my surprise, the person in front of me actually sneered. "Sister, this isn't how you kill a zombie." He pulled out the knife, and with a click, his neck snapped back. He grinned at me and charged straight at me. 9. I underestimated the strength of a 17-year-old zombie, which had been expanded 4 times. I was quickly subdued by him, but just as his sharp teeth were reaching towards me, his movement suddenly stopped. He turned his head slightly, as if he had received some kind of induction. I noticed that the corner of his mouth twitched distortedly. The next second, there was a loud crash outside. Before I could react, a black shadow had rushed in from the door and directly collided with Cassius. "Sister, your brother is here to save you." Cassius instinctively let go of me and started fighting with the brother who had pounced on him. Both of them had incredibly great strength. With just one palm, they could smash the other's chest. I scrambled to the door. "Sister, hurry up and help your brother. Your brother can't hold on anymore." Cassius had just been fed dog food by me, and my brother had been hungry for many days and was running out of strength. He had already been hit several times by the other party, and his internal organs were almost vomiting out. I looked at this tragic scene with pity and slipped out of the room. "I don't believe you at all. It's clearly a battle for food, isn't it? This zombie with the intelligence of an 8-year-old is really something. He's so obsessed with being my brother that he's even addicted to it." As I rushed into my home at the fastest speed, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a woman with long hair standing quietly in the corner of the staircase. She was wearing a red dress and looked like a ghost. Is this one also a zombie for some reason? The moment I saw this woman, an unprecedented sense of fear, as if it came from the abyss, surrounded me. 10. I locked the doors and windows again, as well as the ventilation duct. I believe my brother's words. As long as I hold on, the capital will definitely succeed in rescuing us. 11. At 1 o'clock in the morning, my brother's face appeared outside again, but this time, the muscles on his face were even stiffer. His voice had also changed. "Sister, open the window." 12. I didn't move because, from my perspective, my brother was fixed outside the window, under his armpits. There were 2 bloody hands supporting him. I suddenly realized that, in fact, zombies could also be killed, as long as their bodies were eaten by another zombie. 13. In one corner of the glass, the figure of a woman with black hair and a red dress slowly emerged. I rubbed my eyes and finally confirmed that I wasn't seeing things, but if I could see her through the glass, it meant that the person was in my home at this moment. A cold sweat suddenly ran down my spine. "I will come to your house and kill you. Come to my house." At this moment, I finally truly understood the meaning of these words. The person who sent the text message wasn't Cassius, because that person definitely wanted me to die in my own home. At this moment, the woman was standing motionless at the door of my brother's room. Her entire face was covered by her black hair, and the red of her clothes was clearly terrifying. All of a sudden, various horror movies I had watched before flashed through my mind. I seemed to be able to see the image of her reaching out her hand and charging towards me. I had never seen this woman before. Why did she want to kill me and insist on choosing my home? Suddenly, the electric light in the room made a strong current sound, flickering on and off. Zizz, zizz. The TV turned on automatically, and the screen was filled with snowflake-like fragments, as if a trapped person was roaring in pain. I instinctively trembled. When I slowly turned around with bated breath, I found that the girl standing at the door of the room behind me had disappeared, but the next moment, a pair of hands from above suddenly grabbed my shoulders and pressed me into the sofa, forcing me to look at the TV. The long red nails gently scraped against my face, and I couldn't move. A strong premonition told me that if I took my eyes off the TV for even a moment, the red nails would not hesitate to pierce into my eyes. The snowflake fragments gradually merged into a blurred image, and the image gradually became clear. I saw a missing person notice from half a year ago. Sophie, female, 16 years old, she was wearing a white short skirt when she went missing. She was 163 centimeters tall and weighed about 40 kilograms. The most distinctive feature was her eyes, which were amber eyes that could emit a blue light. On the screen, a middle-aged woman who was crying uncontrollably was throwing herself on the ground and crying, pleading with everyone to help her find her daughter. Looking at this missing person notice, every cell in my body was screaming at myself, could it be? No. This is impossible. How could it be? Half a year ago, around the time the girl went missing, my brother had shown unprecedented excitement. That day, he stood by the window, and the sunlight was shining on his face. His expression was extremely gentle, which was rare for him. Raven, I met a girl with amber eyes. She's 1 in a million. Her eyes can actually emit the luster of the sky, amber eyes that could emit a blue light. Although I really didn't want to admit it, the reality was in front of me. The girl my brother met was the missing girl on the TV. I thought my brother had fallen in love at that time. Later, he really rarely came home and left early and came back late, not knowing what he was busy with, but I never expected that this girl had actually gone missing. Cassius, who was pretending to be my brother outside the window, had a very intense reaction when he heard the sound from the TV. He banged against the glass frantically. If the doors and windows hadn't been modified by my brother, I would really have been scared to tears. Your brother is a sinner. A faint voice slipped past my ear, and those hands suddenly disappeared. 14. Everything seemed to return to normal immediately. I immediately got up and ran to the bedroom and the ventilation duct. I had to escape from home, but just as I was halfway through the duct and almost touched the light, suddenly, a huge eye blocked my way ahead. It was a severely mutated zombie. Its body had expanded several times that of a normal person. Its cloudy eyes blocked my way, and there was a wild light shining in them. I thought something was wrong and wanted to turn back, but then I saw that right behind me, a girl with black hair and a red dress was crawling towards me at high speed. Using both her hands and feet, I let out a scream, and the sound seemed to stimulate her. She crawled even faster, but she didn't notice the faintly trembling muscles on my lips. It was time. I grabbed the army knife in my pocket and opened the valve behind me. The ventilation duct that had been modified by my brother also had a passage that led directly to his bedroom. This was a game we used to play with great enthusiasm when we were children. After I slid into my brother's bedroom, I quickly closed the valve. At the same time, I rushed into my bedroom and sealed the duct. The female zombie had already rushed to the duct opening in my bedroom. I would have been finished if I had been just a little slower listening to the shrill cries coming from the duct. I patted my chest with lingering fear and decided to go to my brother's bedroom to sleep. I'm sorry, brother, although you always didn't let me into your room before and I promised, but now the situation is urgent. You wouldn't let your sister fall asleep listening to these noises, would you? I carried the quilt and went to his bedroom. I don't know why, but the temperature in my brother's room was so low. I curled up inside the quilt, but I still felt like I was in a glacier. There was no other way. I opened his cabinet, trying to find something to cover myself with. Kwang. The moment the cabinet door opened, a touch of red showed up. There was a woman hidden inside. Her black hair covered her face, and her red dress was as red as blood. 15. I never would have thought that the woman would actually go back into the cabinet, but the woman didn't climb out. No, to be precise, she didn't make any movement at all. She was like a person in a deep sleep, motionless in the dark. I stood still for 2 seconds and then summoned up the courage to gently touch her. The woman fell straight out. It turned out to be my brother's mannequin. He sometimes had to study the human body structure when doing experiments. He had to disassemble it with his own hands. Since he couldn't use a real person, he made a realistic mannequin to study, but this mannequin seemed somewhat familiar. I slowly used my hand to push aside the mannequin's hair. The next second, I collapsed to the ground. It was exactly the same. It was exactly the same as the photo on the missing person notice shown on the TV. On the collar of the mannequin, there was also a terrifying note pinned. An error occurred during the genetic research process. This person is now a half-zombie with complete will. She has escaped into the crowd and is very dangerous. If you see her, you must kill her. 16. A bolt of lightning split across the sky outside the window. Then, the sound of rumbling rain roared down in torrents. 17. On this night, I cracked my brother's computer password and opened the folder on the desktop named Secret. It was in this folder that I saw the unknown side of my most admired and beloved brother. The folder was filled with all kinds of photos and texts. Each photo recorded an extremely terrifying truth. My brother had been conducting illegal human experiments. I never would have thought that some of the models that he claimed were human organs and that he had been studying at home were actually real. At first, he obtained the consent of the patients' families and the patients themselves with a large sum of money. He moved the patients who were terminally ill and had only a few days to live to his laboratory to study their body tissues. All kinds of deformed human body pictures were displayed on the computer. Countless patients died in a state of being neither human nor ghost under his scalpel. He took photos of each of them and recorded them, and then moved on to the next one, and the girl named Sophie had indeed come into contact with him before her death. She was also his last experimental subject. The moment my brother saw her, he knew that this was the extremely rare gene he was looking for. My brother wrote in the computer, "The moment I saw this girl, I was completely shocked. My world collapsed and was rebuilt. Heaven has treated me unjustly, but in the end, it has not been too harsh on me. I know that I will definitely succeed with her. This time, my brother did something bad. He illegally took this girl away, trapped her in the laboratory, and forced her to undergo hundreds of surgeries, but due to the high difficulty, his surgeries didn't seem to be going in the direction he had expected." My brother recorded one day, "It seems to have failed. The injected medicine has caused the human body to mutate, and it seems to have turned her into a zombie." But the next day, he excitedly took hundreds of photos. "God has answered my wish, although things have exceeded my expectations, they have developed in a more ideal direction. As long as I can control the degree of zombification and make her a half-zombie, then she will have an extremely strong physique. To a certain extent, she can reach the limit of human lifespan." Later, it seemed that something happened halfway through, and the equipment malfunctioned. The girl faked her death and escaped. Everything recorded in the folder came to an end at this point. I don't know how to express how I feel now. I can only desperately pray that this girl is safe and sound. My brother has committed too many sins, and this girl will definitely be okay. I closed the computer, breathing heavily, and my heart was aching. What broke me down the most was the cause of my brother's death. The reason he was infected with the zombie virus was that he had gone completely crazy in the end and injected the medicine into his own body. He was ruthless to others, and even more ruthless to himself. He injected hundreds of times the normal amount of the virus into his body, which greatly shortened his lifespan. He died in extreme pain. Before he died, he even tremblingly opened the computer and recorded his last feelings before death. "My whole body feels like being crawled over by 10,000 ants. It's more painful than death, but I can barely endure it." My tears welled up and streamed down. He was crazy, truly crazy. In the past, my brother had always been my role model, my belief, and the greatest attachment I had to the world and all my hopes for beauty. But now, my world has completely collapsed. 18 and my heart was hurting more and more severely. I gradually couldn't catch my breath, and my consciousness became blurred. When I woke up, I found myself tied to a piece of equipment. In front of me stood a woman in a red dress. At the woman's feet, there were many zombies kneeling like pets, and one of them was Cassius. The entire laboratory was extremely empty, but zombies were crawling all over the ceiling and corners. Their expressions were ferocious. Their appearances were terrifying, and they were waving their claws, just like wild beasts. Countless zombies let out hoarse growls from the depths of their throats, and in extremely twisted postures, they prostrated themselves at the woman's feet, constantly licking her skirt with their dark green tongues, and the woman remained motionless like a ghostly sculpture. Suddenly, I noticed that all the zombies had bluish-purple scars like moss all over their bodies, and when the wind blew aside the long hair on the woman's forehead, revealing a bit of the skin between her eyebrows, there was a bluish-purple tattoo flower. Suddenly, one of the young zombies seemed to have a painful expression. It seemed that he had awakened something and opened his mouth to call out "Mom." In an instant, the woman pounced and bit his neck. The little zombie let out a loud scream, but the woman bit down firmly. Finally, she staggered back to the distance, still with her long hair covering her face, and it was impossible to see the expression on her face. The connection between the little zombie's neck and head was almost broken, held together only by a thin tendon. There were 2 deep bite marks on the neck that exposed the bone. It was as if the teeth of some wild beast had been directly inserted. Soon, the zombie became numb again. He held up his swaying head and knelt down at the woman's feet, licking even more vigorously than the other zombies. I almost went crazy after witnessing all this, a large-scale scene of zombies infecting people. This woman was the mother body. It turned out that everything that happened in the city was related to her. It was her who turned everyone into zombies. She was the origin of the zombies. 19 I was angry, couldn't bear it, and was in pain, but I was the least qualified to hate, because this woman was caused by my brother. She was the escaped Sophie. 20 I finally understood why she wanted to kill me in my home, because it was in this home, in my brother's temporary laboratory, that he performed the first surgery on Sophie. "You're awake," the woman finally spoke. I had never heard such a hoarse voice, like scratching on tin, almost spat out while choking. As soon as I opened my mouth, hundreds of zombies suddenly surrounded me. The foul-smelling liquid dripped from their mouths and landed on me. I was almost suffocating and shouted sorry until the woman's hand moved slightly, and those zombies slowly got off me. "Is it terrifying?" she asked in a low voice. I Didn't know how to answer. You can't stand it just like this. Do you know that once, there was a girl who was defiled by an extremely disgusting man in the bushes? She was still conscious, but she was completely unable to cry for help and could only watch helplessly as the people passing by left one by one. That's because too much medicine was injected into her body, and she had no strength left after she escaped. Of course, I knew who this girl was. After a moment of silence, I murmured, "I'm sorry, it's all my brother's fault. I apologize to you on his behalf." These words were very pale, but that was all I could say. My brother had indeed committed unforgivable sins. As his sister, it was only right for me to pay for his actions by being killed. I closed my eyes and waited for death to come, but the expected death didn't arrive. Instead, a sinister voice rang in my ears. On his behalf, haven't you noticed that all the patients your brother treated suffered from extremely severe congenital heart disease? Congenital heart disease. I suddenly opened my eyes. The woman's fingers were gesturing in front of my chest. Just like you, congenital heart disease that can't be cured by medicine. You can only live until you're 40 years old. What do you mean? I said in a trembling voice. The woman's nails had unknowingly pierced into my flesh, but I didn't feel the pain. The huge shock had made me numb, and I just wanted her to make things clear. Your brother did all this because of you. Countless bodies are buried underground here. Your brother kept changing the subjects and conducting countless experiments, until he met me with the most special genes. He found that I seemed even harder to kill. The woman stiffly turned her neck, and her long hair fell on my face. Do you know what I went through after I escaped? Why, every zombie decapitates the person they kill. That's because of me, the mother body. I was decapitated by that rapist, thanks to the many medicines your brother injected into me. A zombie-like mutation occurred in my body. I survived. He forcibly turned me into this inhuman appearance with the zombie virus, and after I escaped, the heavens have eyes, he himself was infected with the virus. You don't know how happy I was when I saw him outside the window just now. The woman's voice gradually became shrill. Finally, I clearly saw that she pushed aside the hair on her forehead, revealing her face that had been completely disfigured due to the mutation, deformed facial features, terrifying scars, and bulging eyes. There was no trace of the beautiful appearance of the girl I saw in the missing person notice. On that day half a year ago, I came to find Cassius and met your brother on the way. That was the beginning of my nightmare. He destroyed everything about me and made me bite and kill the person I loved the most in Cassius' grandma when the medicine took effect. I sealed their bodies with tape and stood them against the wall, just to remind me that I must never forget to take revenge. I wonder if you felt the same way as I did at that time. The same fear. I took a sharp breath. Cassius clearly didn't die. The woman looked at me and her fingers moved slightly. The Cassius mixed in the group of zombies was instantly lifted up by a thread. Then I noticed that there was a red thread tied around his neck, and as the woman's fingers lowered, Cassius crashed to the ground, and all his limbs scattered into pieces. It turned out to be a fake. The waxified and shriveled body of the young boy in front of the wall was completely unrecognizable. I had never imagined that the other body I saw in Grandma Madison's house was actually Cassius. It turned out that it had been her in my home all along. She had gone to great lengths to torture me until now and played tricks on me. It would be more straightforward for her to just kill me. I've been observing you for 3 days. You were very happy, and your brother was really good to you. She stroked my face affectionately and slowly climbed on top of me, pressed tightly against such a terrifying face. I trembled and said, "Kill me, if you have the guts. Kill me, come on, kill me. I will kill you, but not in such a straightforward way to let you be free from suffering." The woman sneered and stuck out her tongue to slowly lick my face. "I want to turn you into a monster like me. I want you to stay conscious and watch how you live on in this inhuman and ghostly state. This is the greatest revenge on your brother, isn't it?" A sharp pain hit me. I felt that my chest was cut open, and my heart was tightly grasped. I gradually lost consciousness. In the last second before I lost my consciousness, I softly said in my heart, "Brother, finally, we got what we wanted." 21. As my brother's closest relative, when I read the information on his computer, how could I not understand his intentions? And how could I not know what he had gone through? When my brother was still conscious, he had forced himself to go home to reinforce the house for me. In the ventilation duct, he found the mucus secreted by the zombie's body. He knew that smell all too well. Therefore, the final step of his plan was to turn me into a half-zombie like Sophie, with an independent will and a powerful body. Next, I saw a female corpse with her neck bitten off, fixed to the wall. On her body, there was an extremely terrifying monster. I just need to eat Coco's dog food. My heart can regenerate after it's completely destroyed by her, and I can finally break through the curse of a lifespan of only 40 years. When the rescue team finds me, the existing medical level can completely remove the toxins in my body. The only thing I need to endure is the pain when the medicine takes effect as recorded in my brother's computer. It feels like being scratched by 100 ants, more painful than death, but for me, it's already a gain. 22. The biggest secret of my brother is known only to me. He committed Suicide out of guilt, he injected the zombie virus into his own body with his own hands. Before he died, he conducted the final test for me with his life. Story 2. When I received my mother's call, I was standing punished under the scorching sun by the instructor. Run, run, came my mother's frantic screams through the phone. In 2 hours, one of your instructors will turn into a zombie, and the whole school will be overrun. At first, I didn't believe it. It sounded too far-fetched, but my mother's trembling voice made me panic. Later, I learned that everything my mom said was true. She had fallen into a bizarre cycle of rebirth. She was reborn 2 hours before the zombie outbreak. After hanging up the phone, she transferred 100,000 yuan to me, instructing me to stock up on at least 2 months' worth of supplies within 2 hours and then lock the doors and windows and hide. Although my family was fairly well off, 100,000 yuan was not a small amount. My mother was serious. You worthless thing. The instructor came over, fuming. Did I tell you to stand here as punishment or to make phone calls? Of all the classes I've taught, I've never seen a student as undisciplined as you, so fond of making calls. Fine, continue standing. Don't think about leaving unless you complete the 2 hours. I knew he was targeting me. With so many in the class, everyone would slack off when he wasn't looking. But he always singled me out for scolding. I've always been soft-hearted. I've been like this since I was little. My mom even took me to a psychologist to make me tougher, only to confirm that I had a people-pleasing personality. I always subconsciously tried to please others, neglecting myself. Whenever I was wronged, I would just endure it silently, but I didn't understand why. The more I behaved this way, the more I was targeted. The last time I was targeted was because someone in the neighboring class made a fool of themselves, and everyone laughed, including me. The instructor kicked me in the shin, demanding, "Who allowed you to laugh without reporting first?" Initially, I really didn't know what I had done to offend him, until I later saw my bullying roommate Scarlett getting close to him. Then I understood everything. I glanced at the time. It was exactly 2 p.m. Seeing my expression, the instructor kicked my shin as usual, his tone more malicious. "Try looking around again. Stand properly." Under the shade of a tree, Scarlett and a few other classmates were eating ice cream, eagerly watching the scene with grins, but no one expected that this time. After taking a deep breath, I didn't just swallow the insult. Instead, I kicked back, causing the instructor to howl in pain as he clutched his ankle and hopped around. "Stupid instructor, I'm done playing with you." After leaving those words behind, I didn't waste any more time and ran off as if my life depended on it. Scarlett rushed up, supporting the instructor, glaring at my retreating figure and yelling, "Evelyn, how dare you hit the instructor? You must be crazy. See if you ever come back to us, or you're dead. I'm telling you, who cares? In 2 hours, it's questionable whether anyone here will still be alive." Without turning back, I was frantically planning in my mind. With only 2 hours, I definitely couldn't go back to the dorm. Out of 6 people, 5 were bullying and isolating me. Luckily, because of the bullying, I had been looking for a rental since the second day of military training and had just found a suitable apartment not far from the university yesterday. It was a loft on the 13th floor, 2 stories high, with a monthly rent of 1,500, which I had rented for a semester. I never thought it would come in so handy. Being on the 13th floor might make moving supplies a bit challenging, as going up and down could waste some time. Every second now was crucial for survival. I couldn't help but breathe faster as I walked and took out my phone. No matter. I decided to first place some orders on a delivery app. I was cautious about ordering too much, fearing it might draw attention, since the apartment building had only one main entrance with security always present. Frequently moving a lot of supplies might be too conspicuous, especially since I would be spending the coming days alone. With these thoughts in mind, I judiciously ordered some vegetables, eggs, and meat. Actually, I'm not good at cooking and I don't really have a sense of measurements. I just randomly pick out items. The vegetables cost me over 300, and various meats almost 600. Though I can't cook, I still buy the groceries, as having supplies gives a sense of security. I ordered a whole box of cold medicine, anti-inflammatory drugs, bandages, and iodine online. While placing these online orders, I rushed into the campus supermarket and emptied the shelves of all the ready-to-eat foods, grabbing about 50 packets of instant noodles and 50 other quick meals until my basket was full. I glanced around and my eyes landed on some suitcases for sale, unusually for me. I didn't even check the prices before picking up 2 of the largest suitcases and heading to the checkout to continue filling them with more supplies. I managed to pack about a month's worth of ready-to-eat food and about 30 bottles of 1 5-liter water into one suitcase. These items are essentials, and I had to drag them back to my apartment no matter what, as they would be my sustenance for the next 2 months. Seeing the mountain of instant food at the checkout, the cashier blinked and asked, Are you taking all these? My heart pounded and sweat covered my forehead as I nodded. Please hurry up with the checkout, I'm in a rush. Although I said that, the cashier was scanning each item slowly. Just then, the supermarket door opened and a group of girls walked in chatting. Does applying ice water really help? Of course it does. Didn't you see how swollen the instructor's ankle was? Evelyn really kicked hard. That was quite vicious. Suddenly, they stopped and all turned to look at me at the checkout. Scarlett squinted her eyes. Evelyn, I ignored her, focusing on packing my instant noodles, a large bag of steamed buns, and chili sauce into the suitcase. Checking the time, it was already 2:20 p.m., and I could still make at least 2 more trips with these large suitcases. But here, in less than 100 minutes, this place would become a living hell. Scarlett walked up with her arms crossed, sneering at the convenience food. Where are you fleeing to with all this? $2.50 per packet for the noodles. Buying so many, it made sense, though. $2.50 wouldn't even buy a dish in the school cafeteria, but it could buy enough noodles to fill you up. How pathetic. Seeing that I ignored her, I carefully packed the food and zipped up the suitcase. My roommates, seeing this, mocked. Some people probably have never eaten anything good in their lives, treating these things like treasures. It's quite pitiful to see, but inside, I scoffed lightly. Laugh all you want, even louder. You won't believe that in a month, you'll be fighting bloody battles and kneeling for these very cheap foods. Part 2. When I reached the apartment entrance with the 2 large suitcases at 2:40 p.m., it was just my luck that both elevators were stuck on higher floors and not moving. Suddenly, a voice from behind startled me. Why are you dragging such big luggage by yourself? I jumped and turned around to see a bald man in his 50s. He was dressed in a security uniform, not very tall, with dark skin, and kept sizing me up with his hands behind his back. His eyes were small but sharp, squinting slightly as he casually asked, "Young lady, what have you got in there? Need any help?" "I just moved here with some clothes and daily necessities," I said, shifting my suitcase to the side. "No need, I can manage on my own." Fortunately, the elevator arrived just in time, and I hurriedly dragged my luggage inside, only to find that the elderly security guard had followed me in the cramped space of the elevator. I could feel his gaze fixed intently on me from behind. I turned to him. "Which floor are you going to?" He waved his hand dismissively. "Don't mind me." I fell silent and pressed the elevator button. I was renting an apartment on the 13th floor, but to be cautious, I pressed the button for the 10th floor first. After reaching the 10th floor, I stepped out with my suitcase and made sure the old man didn't follow. Then, I switched to another elevator to reach the 13th floor. As soon as I unlocked the door and entered, I dumped everything out of my suitcase. Coincidentally, the food delivery arrived at that moment, and the entrance was cluttered with packages of various sizes. I didn't bother to tidy up. I just closed the suitcase and continued to bring supplies from the convenience store at the entrance of the apartment. After 2 more trips and checking the time, there were only 25 minutes left until the zombie outbreak. I could have made another trip, but I didn't want to take the risk. Looking at the pile of supplies that had amassed into a small mountain, I decided it was enough. These supplies would last a girl like me not just 2 months, but even half a year. Rice, flour, and oil, each in a large container. I had stocked up 100 packs of instant noodles, even in different flavors, 20 self-heating hot pots, 15 bags of hot and sour noodles, and 10 packs each of dumplings and wontons. In addition, there were various snacks like sausages and chips for drinks. Not only did I have mineral water, but I also stocked up on large bottles of iced tea, cola, and Sprite, each in 1-liter sizes. Vegetables and meats filled the refrigerator. I had stocked up 3 months' worth of feminine hygiene products just to be safe. I got 5 chargers and 10 power banks. Having watched some disaster movies, I knew zombies were particularly sensitive to noise. I had lost an earphone, so I made sure to buy 2 more at the convenience store. Everything was ready. I double-locked the door and barricaded it with the coffee table from the living room. Then, I turned off the living room lights and drew the curtains, collapsing exhaustedly on the sofa. Looking at my supplies, I couldn't help but feel a liberating sense of surviving a catastrophe. During this time, my mom had sent several voice messages that I hadn't answered. No, I finally had time to respond to her on Instagram. I learned that my parents had also prepared their supplies and secured their home, quietly waiting for 3 o'clock to arrive. Although we were in different cities and couldn't be together, knowing that we were each in a safe and well-supplied environment brought me some peace of mind. I chatted with my parents in our family group, lifting the curtain slightly to peek outside. From my 13th floor apartment, I could see the school playground where students were dispersing, laughing and chatting, oblivious to the impending nightmare. I closed the family chat and glanced at my class group, only to discover that I had unwittingly become notorious. From the school forum to social media and confession walls, there was a flood of criticism and spam about me. Although the posts were anonymous, I knew all too well that Scarlett was behind them. From the first day of room assignments at the start of the school year, she had been like a nightmare to me. Scarlett, with her stunning looks, was declared the class beauty just a week into military training, her arrogance deeply Ingrained, she thought my quietness was a psychological defect and started off by making fun of me, which only escalated over time. The incident that struck me most was one time in the cafeteria when she saw me meticulously cleaning my plate with every spoonful. She scoffed and said, "My goodness, you ate so cleanly that the plate doesn't even need washing. No wonder you're as fat as a pig, seriously. If I were as fat as you, I'd rather die." Am I really fat? I'm 165 centimeters tall and weigh 105 pounds. While I'm not exactly skinny, calling me as fat as a pig is a bit much. I really don't understand Scarlett and her friends, who seem to take pride in not finishing their food and wasting as much as possible. In the past, my people-pleasing personality always made me tolerate her sarcasm, and I was subconsciously afraid of ruining relationships with others. But now, suddenly, a scream from downstairs interrupted my thoughts. I looked out and saw chaos on the school playground. Everyone was screaming and running away, some with their heads tilted at odd angles, growling and roaring strangely. Looking at the time, the minute hand was pointed right at 3:50. What's going on? Could the zombie outbreak have started early? I broke out in a cold sweat. Thankfully, I hadn't been greedy for more supplies. If I had gone downstairs at 3:35 to move a third batch of supplies, whether I could have come back unscathed would be questionable. The bedroom, with the curtains drawn, was somewhat dim. The quiet around me starkly contrasted with the panic and fleeing downstairs. The spread of the zombies was much faster than I had anticipated. The streets were already filled with many infected people, their necks crooked, faces deathly pale, bodies covered in blood, seemingly oblivious to pain, mindlessly attacking and biting, their numbers growing. Even though I had mentally prepared myself, the gore was still unsettling. I quietly closed the curtains and grabbed a bottle of milk tea, taking a few sips to calm my nerves. Soon after, running and screaming could also be heard in the apartment corridor. I looked at my securely locked door and the coffee table barricading it, knowing that as long as I stayed silent and didn't open the door, I wouldn't attract the zombies. But the screams outside were heart-wrenching. "Open the door, please open it." The voice sounded like a girl about my age, probably another student who lived off campus. "Dylan, I know you're in there. I just went out to buy some things." The zombies hadn't caught up when I came up. "Please, just crack the door open and let me in. I'm begging you. Didn't you say you loved me? Didn't you promise just yesterday that we would get married after graduation? Please open the door, please." The girl's cries of despair sounded especially bleak in these chaotic times. I sighed, sensing that this was a couple. The girl had gone out to buy something, and the guy had locked the door after discovering the zombie outbreak. I felt a pang of sympathy. My inherently soft nature and my people-pleasing personality made me hesitate about whether to open a door of life for this girl. Just as she said, the zombies hadn't spread to this floor yet. If I wanted to, opening the door in front of me would be her lifeline. Just then, my phone screen lit up, and I saw a message from my mom. "Do not open the door." I was shocked. Had my mom been watching through the camera? Otherwise, how would she know I was hesitating to open the door for that helpless girl outside? My mom knew I had always been kind-hearted and easily bullied, but you must know, human hearts are far more terrifying than you think, and in times of chaos, there is no room for kindness. You think that girl outside is pitiful, right? You believe in empathy, but you don't know that in the end, to save herself, that girl might push you into a horde of zombies. My daughter, that's how you could end up dying. Reading this, my forehead was covered in a dense sweat, and I froze, unable to move. A chill crept up inside me. The very next second, without any hesitation, I retreated back into my bedroom, plugging headphones into my phone. I stuffed one into my ear, pulled the covers over my head, and started watching Crayon Shin-chan. The outside screams and cries for help no longer had anything to do with me. All I wanted now was to ensure my own safety and eventually reunite with my family unharmed, just as I had speculated, as long as I had sufficient supplies. Kept the curtains tightly closed, and made no noise, the zombies would not discover me, much less find me here. I spent the first day safe and sound, regularly sharing updates and emotions with my parents in our family chat, encouraging each other with the goal of eventually reuniting safely. My phone also began to push some news designed to calm the public. The nation will not abandon any of its people who are fleeing. Please trust in our country, light will surely come, though I didn't know when. Receiving such news made my heart settle somewhat. The fourth day of the zombie outbreak, the streets were a gray haze, roamed by a horde of the walking dead. Not a single living person was in sight, and the whole city had fallen into a deathly silence. Many people had run out of supplies. Numerous drones randomly dropped food from the sky, each landing attracting countless zombies who roared and bared their teeth. But who would dare to actually go out and pick up supplies? Some, unable to withstand hunger, crept out stealthily to gather food from the streets, only to be carelessly overwhelmed by hundreds of zombies, ending up not just infected, but nearly annihilated. I feared that in a few days the internet would cut out, even electricity might fail, so I charged up 10 power banks and downloaded some movies, just in case I really had to face the hardship of passing time without the internet. A week into the zombie outbreak, my supplies were still plentiful, providing me the Greatest sense of security in the afternoon. I received a message in a group chat. Opening it, it was surprisingly from my dorm group. Someone had tagged me asking, "Are you still there, Scarlett? Where are you hiding? Haven't seen you back at the dorm. Do you still have food?" I briefly scanned the message, then tossed my phone aside, not planning on replying. About 40 minutes later, the phone screen lit up again with several more tags from the same person. "Scarlett, Scarlett." Pretending not to see. Speak up, Scarlett, I know. "You have food. I saw you at the school supermarket right before the outbreak. You were stocking up 2 whole suitcases of food. Scarlett, don't play dead. Sharing some food with us won't kill you, will it? Evelyn, it's not good to be so selfish. Do you know how many days it's been since we last had anything to eat?" Yes, I knew. It was impossible for the dorm to have much in the way of supplies. I guess Scarlett and the others were probably eating leftover food from a few days ago, or some snacks they usually bought. No, after 7 days, with 5 people in the dorm, they had likely run out. Ironically, I had planned to travel to the Great Northwest with my parents on October 1st, so I had purchased a drone early, intending to capture the beautiful landscapes from above. The drone had arrived less than a week ago, and I hadn't even unpacked it yet. It was just sitting on the coffee table. If I wanted, I could easily attach some lightweight food to the drone and, taking advantage of the cover of darkness and the zombies' impaired vision, send some food to Scarlett and the others. If I were still the person I used to be, I would have done everything possible to help them. But now, after just a few days of apocalypse, having witnessed the coldness of human nature, I suddenly saw things differently. I used to think I was just a naive and gullible person, the epitome of a saintly martyr. Scarlett took advantage of my soft nature and bullied me for so long. If she came to me now, begging for food, I might still consider it, but now, what is she even trying to pull? I took out a piece of bread, bit into it, and snapped a photo, which I posted in the group chat with the caption, "Delicious." Yes, that was intentional. Soon after, Scarlett and the others exploded. "Scarlett, we're all in the dorm right now. Hurry up and bring your food over so we can meet up." I replied with just one word. "No, Scarlett." "What did you say?" "Say that again, Evelyn. I'm telling you to bring your food and meet up with us now." Immediately, seeing that I wasn't replying anymore, the other roommates started changing their tune from supporting Scarlett to speaking more kindly. "Evelyn, we don't mean anything by it, but it's not safe for you to be outside alone with the zombies around. Yeah, come meet up with us. If there's any trouble, we can face it together." I just listened at the door. There are no zombies near our dorm. "Evelyn, come quickly. There's strength in numbers." "Scarlett, enough. Can you guys have a little dignity? Didn't we survive just fine those days we dieted and didn't eat for a week? What difference does it make whether she's with us or not?" "Evelyn, don't think you're something special just because you have some food. I don't care about that now. Truly, you're giving yourself too much credit. It serves you right to have no friends." I scoffed coldly, not angry, and didn't reply. Instead, I just set the group chat to do not disturb and turned off my phone screen. As night fell, zombies, whose vision is poor, move much slower. I've gotten used to not turning on the lights or drawing the curtains at night, only occasionally peeking through the gaps in the curtains to look at the outside world. Thankfully, there's still internet. Chatting daily with my parents to confirm our safety is what sustains me, not feeling hungry in the evening. I grabbed a Coke and chatted with my parents in our family group chat, casually bringing up the dorm situation. Mom asked, "Do you have drones there? Are you going to send them food?" I thought for a moment. No. Mom sent a happy emoji. "That's my girl, changing for the better. You shouldn't. Remember that one time when you sent them supplies and ended up attracting zombies to the apartment?" Honestly, I'm still not fully adjusted to my mom's idea of me having reincarnated multiple times due to my overly altruistic nature. It's the 8th day since the apocalypse began. Books say people can survive a week without food at most. Beyond that, it's dangerous. Scarlett, who was so arrogant in the chat yesterday, has now toned down her arrogance significantly due to hunger. Such a proud person, now begging me desperately for a bite to eat. "Where are you hiding? If it's close to the dorm, we can send someone to get the food." "Evelyn, I know I've been too much in the past. Please don't stoop to my level, okay? Just give us 5 packs of instant noodles." "No, 3 will do. I'm begging you." "Alright, if you're still upset, I'll kneel down and beg. We're really going to starve to death. We're all classmates. Do you really want to watch us die?" "I was wrong. It was all my fault. You can curse me, insult me, return all the hurt I caused you, just as long as you give me something to eat." "Evelyn, please, I really can't take it anymore." Seeing these messages from Scarlett, I stood up and pulled a packet of instant noodles from the living room. Turning around, I walked into the kitchen to boil some water for the noodles. While waiting for the water to boil, I decisively left the dormitory group chat without any hesitation. Day 9 of the zombie outbreak, my worst fear finally came true. The internet went down, and there was a complete loss of water and power. Although losing water and power was manageable, since I had stored enough drinking water and filled every bucket with tap water For electricity, I didn't have time to buy solar panels. I could only prepare as many fully charged power banks as possible, but the real problem was the loss of internet connection. I couldn't receive any news from the outside world nor chat daily with my parents to keep their spirits up. The fear of being disconnected from the world suddenly felt more terrifying than the zombies outside. But what could I do? I had to keep my spirits up. My mom said that the zombie situation would be under control in 2 months. And it had been nearly 10 days already. I had downloaded plenty of videos to keep myself entertained, but with only 10 power banks, I allowed myself just 2 hours of phone time each day. Mostly, I would just watch pre-downloaded episodes of Crayon Shin-chan or read novels. The rest of the time, I drifted around the house like a ghost with nothing to do. On one of these aimless days, I noticed an old calligraphy book I had used to prop up a table leg. I pulled it out and seriously practiced writing a couple of pages. Day 12 of the outbreak. I wished I could be with my parents right now. Being confined at home with them would surely be much happier than being alone. Staying alive and reuniting with my parents became my sole focus. These past few days without internet and power, I was nearly going insane. If not for the still moving hands on my watch, I would have lost all sense of time. The biggest activity now was, by nightfall, to peek through the curtains to see outside. It had been nearly 2 weeks since the outbreak began. People's initial fear of zombies had gradually turned into daring ventures out in small groups to scavenge for supplies. Some agile individuals could even manage a few zombies, then quickly escape. Like now, I saw a man in his 30s, tall and sturdy, with a bandage on his arm, hiding behind an SUV, cautiously surveying the zombies ahead. Terrifyingly, a zombie was quietly standing by a pillar right behind him, only about 10 meters away. I covered my mouth, internally screaming, "Turn around, look, there's a zombie right behind you, run." Finally, in the quiet of the night, a scream of terror came from downstairs, from behind the curtains of my 13th floor window. I watched the man desperately fighting the zombie, feeling somewhat dazed. The thrill was similar to the first time I watched a zombie movie, but now, the feelings were entirely different. It was like the stories from the movies had leapt into reality, and it was far more intense and terrifying. Who would risk going out unless absolutely necessary because of hunger? I sighed and quietly closed the curtains. Day 16 of the outbreak. Today, the weather was exceptionally good. The long-lost sunlight made the city look particularly bright. If not for the empty streets and the debris everywhere, I might have thought that the recent days were just a nightmare. It was mid-September now, and the temperature was starting to drop. I felt somewhat relieved that the zombie outbreak didn't happen during the peak of summer. As someone who can't stand the heat and relies on air conditioning, I would have probably been miserable. As usual, after dark, I sat by the bay window, this time a bit bolder, opening the window slightly to let in some fresh air. My apartment on the 13th floor felt safe, and perhaps it was just my perception, but it seemed like the zombies were starting to move away from this area, much fewer than in the first 3 days of the outbreak, but occasionally, my gaze would sweep over the empty streets. Seeing a zombie suddenly popping out from nowhere is still a startling experience. As I was staring out the window, lost in thought, I suddenly noticed a drone flying straight towards me. This really took me by surprise, and instinctively, I thought about closing the window, until I saw a girl about my age carefully waving at me from the building across, signaling me to bring the drone inside. I then noticed a note attached to the drone, with a strangely rapid heartbeat. I opened the window, peeled the note off the drone, and quickly closed the curtains like a thief before I began to read it. Elegant handwriting came into view. "Hello, I'm your neighbor from across, living on the 15th floor. You live alone, right? Without the internet, I'm about to go crazy." At first, I thought it was my imagination seeing the curtains move in the 13th floor apartment across at night, but to find there's actually someone there made me so happy. "Can we be friends? My name is Abigail. What's yours?" This is my first time communicating with someone in this way, in such a context, through writing, but I must admit, I'm both excited and happy. After all, this is my first contact with someone other than myself since the internet went down. Immediately, I rushed to my desk, tore off a piece of paper, and quickly wrote back to the girl, "My name is Evelyn, and I'm a freshman." Over the following days, Abigail and I kept exchanging notes. Gradually, what started as a few lines turned into full-page conversations. We talked about everything from celebrity gossip to academic topics, and even got to know each other's romantic histories quite well. I told her I've been perennially single, a forever alone type, and Abigail responded, "Then it's meant to be that we become best buddies." As single folks seem to attract each other. Through these days of communicating by notes, I learned Abigail is also a freshman and, to my surprise, she's also majoring in photography. I'm in section 1, and she's in section 2. This incredible coincidence brought us even closer, and we've agreed that if we get through this, on The day the zombie outbreak is finally under control, we'll rent a place together and talk all night in person. I'm really curious how Abigail also managed to stock up so much beforehand. She started hoarding a week in advance, and from her description, except for her sleeping area, her place is filled with supplies, leaving just a narrow passage to walk through. I was impressed and asked how she thought to stock up so much in advance. Abigail, what if I told you I was reborn? Would you believe? Me reading this line from Abigail, no exaggeration, gave me goosebumps, feeling how mysterious fate can be. Abigail then asked, "Do you have enough supplies? If you're running low on food, let me know, and I'll send some over with the drone." Evelyn, we will definitely make it until we see the light of day again, and then we'll be best friends. Best friends, it's truly a beautiful word. This is probably the first time since the apocalypse began that I've felt warmth from someone other than my parents. In these times, when supplies are so precious, I felt truly happy knowing Abigail was willing to share hers with me. It's been 30 days since the zombie outbreak. Tonight, the moonlight is gentle. Abigail and I cleverly use drones to tie long strings between our windows so that even if the drones run out of power, we can still send notes by pulling the strings in the bright moonlight. I lay on the windowsill and slowly wrote on a clean sheet of paper, "Abigail, I miss my mom and dad today." Like any other day, I woke up feeling a bit dizzy. It's already October. I shivered from the cold. A sense of dread washed over me, prompting me to go downstairs to the living room where I dug out a thermometer to check my temperature. It read 39.9 degrees Celsius. I rarely ever had such a high fever, and to have one during these chaotic times was particularly alarming. Fortunately, I had some fever-reducing medicine prepared in advance and quickly took a dose. With no appetite for food, I drank some water and then moved to the windowsill. Exchanging notes with Abigail had become a daily routine. I wrote her a note saying I was feeling unwell and might need extra sleep before heading back upstairs to my bedroom. I put on more clothes, even my winter down jacket, and crawled under a thick blanket to get some more rest. When I woke up again, it was already dark. I was drenched in sweat and felt no better, rather more weakened. I fumbled for the thermometer and checked again. Now it was nearly 40 degrees. Terrified, I increased the dosage of my medicine. The fever waxed and waned for nearly 3 days before finally showing signs of improvement. Today, the fever had subsided, but I was still left with a stuffy nose and a sore throat. After taking my medicine, I finally felt well enough to approach the windowsill. Lifting a corner of the curtain, I saw a pile of notes stacked up at the door, almost forming a small mountain. I quickly opened the window to bring the notes inside and discovered they were all from Abigail, expressing her concern. Looking up, I saw Abigail at her windowsill. She immediately passed me a note she had just written. "Are you feeling better? I've been by this window for 3 days. You finally showed up. I almost thought the zombies had gotten you." I was astonished to learn that Abigail had been there all this time for me. Feeling both guilty and touched, I quickly wrote back, "My fever has gone down, and I'm feeling much better now. Sorry to have worried you these past few days. It's good you're okay. Bye." "The way, did you hear what they were announcing on the loudspeakers?" I replied, confused. "What loudspeaker?" Perhaps due to my weakened state, I had been completely out of the loop. Abigail explained, "A few days ago, the school's loudspeaker announced that survivors could head to a base near the high-speed train station. If they pass the checks at the entrance confirming they are not infected, they can enter. The base is said to be safe and even provides daily meals and internet access. Do you want to go?" The high-speed train station, that's nearly half an hour's drive from here. We had no transport, and with enough supplies, it seemed wiser to stay put in our own home. As long as we didn't venture out, we wouldn't attract zombies. After sharing my thoughts with Abigail, she agreed, and we both decided to stay where we were. Clearly, other survivors were getting restless. Normally, people might stock up on supplies, but it had been almost 30 days, rather than passively waiting to die. They seemed ready to take a chance. I had seen many trying to escape by car under the cover of darkness. Some were lucky enough to get away smoothly, while others were spotted by zombies before they could even get in the car and returned on the spot. Day 60 of the zombie outbreak. It had been over a month since I last contacted my parents. I wondered how they were doing. This fear of the unknown always seemed to magnify at night. Why, if it's been 2 months already? Initially, my mother told me that the zombie situation would be under control after 2 months, but now, I see no such possibility of improvement. Could it be that the storyline of this life has changed? It's not impossible, especially since the zombie outbreak started 10 minutes earlier this time around. Where does the end truly lie? Day 90 of the zombie outbreak. 3 months have flown by. I still have plenty of supplies, having consumed only about half. However, I had only stockpiled 3 months' worth of sanitary pads for women. Fortunately, Abigail generously sent me several large bags using a drone. I sent back several bags of Haidaleo tomato beef vermicelli to Abigail. She mentioned that she had casually picked this flavor and didn't expect it to be so delicious. Now that she has finished them, she craves more. Coincidentally, I also love this flavor. I had 3 boxes left at home and gave her 2, keeping one for myself. It's hard to imagine that Abigail and I could become such close friends. In these apocalyptic times, syncing up everything from unspoken understandings to tastes and fundamental beliefs. Day 100 of the zombie outbreak. The weather has turned chilly, and it's already mid-November. Almost a semester has passed, and it's hard to believe that our survival from the apocalypse started during our school's military training. Time has been tough but has unexpectedly flown by. The evenings have grown increasingly silent around here, making me wonder how many others, besides Abigail and me, have survived in these buildings. The streets are desolate, with autumn winds swirling fallen leaves, and even zombies have become a rare sight. Day 120 of the zombie outbreak. Today, I made a significant discovery. I saw some men in camouflage uniforms, some even in tanks and armored vehicles, eliminating many wandering zombies downstairs. Maybe it's because I was so moved, but seeing them reminded me of a saying online: there will always be someone who will carry the burden for you. For some reason, seeing those in camouflage infused me with strength, and I started to believe more than ever that the day we see the light again is drawing nearer. Day 150 of the zombie outbreak. The new year is fast approaching, and this is no illusion. There truly are fewer zombies now, but the day of complete eradication has not yet arrived. Police officers, now seemingly unafraid of zombies, patrol the streets, holsters at their waists. Abigail had prepared a radio before the apocalypse. And occasionally, we catch news from the outside. I've heard that a vaccine is now in development, and lifting the lockdown finally seems hopeful. Occasionally, pedestrians wrapped in thick clothes survey their surroundings cautiously before stepping out, only to be quickly sent back by the police. If they encounter zombies, they are dealt with swiftly. One evening, someone gently knocked on my door, startling me like a frightened rabbit. I turned sharply towards the tightly closed door. Just then, a voice at the doorway whispered, "Honey, it's us." I could hardly believe my ears. I scrambled to the door, my voice trembling as I called out, "Mom, Dad." Indeed, it was my parents. I frantically moved the coffee table aside and flung the door open. Greeting me were two faces, aged and worn but incredibly familiar. I burst into tears. After letting my parents in, I held them and cried for a long time, unwilling to let go. All my pretenses fell away in front of them, leaving only the deepest trust and reassurance. My mother was crying too, continually patting my shoulder and examining me. "Let me look at you. Not bad at all. You look a bit chubbier than the last time I saw you. It seems our daughter hasn't gone hungry these past few months." My father also wiped away tears but teased, patting my head. All right. Such a big kid and still crying so much." After sitting down on the sofa, I looked at my parents' white-tinged hair, my voice choked up. "Mom, Dad, you've both lost weight." Both had noticeably thinned down. What on earth had happened? "My dear, it's not important. What matters is that we've made it through, and now our family is finally together." I refused to let my parents dismiss the situation with just a few sentences, insisting that they tell me the truth. It turned out that a few hours before the zombie outbreak, my parents had already boarded a high-speed train to my city. 10 minutes after the train stopped, the zombie outbreak began on a large scale. I couldn't help covering my mouth in shock. "So, you mean to say, you arrived in my city before the outbreak, and you've been living here all these months?" They had previously lied to me, saying they had stockpiled plenty of supplies back home and were living comfortably. At first, your mom and I were in despair, but after your mom went through several cycles of revival, waking up on the train each time, we resigned ourselves to our fate. It didn't matter what happened to us, as long as you had the chance to prepare and hide supplies 2 months in advance. So, that's why didn't you tell me the truth from the start? Where have you been hiding these months, my child? If we had told you the reality, would you have been able to stay calm? Could you have carried on peacefully these days?" Actually, it wasn't much. Right after we got off the train, we ran without anyone noticing, made it out in 5 minutes, and managed to stock up on some food from a convenience store before hiding in a storage room at the train station. It was a brilliant hiding spot your mom found after many cycles of revival. It's remote and the door is very sturdy because of the small space. Whenever your mom and I felt like we couldn't bear it anymore, we just thought about how persevering a bit longer would allow us to see our precious daughter and be reunited as a family. No matter how tough, we could withstand it. Seeing my expression change continuously, my mom quickly added, "Don't worry, darling, it was just tough during the previous month." Later, when a base was established next to the train station, your dad and I figured out a way to avoid the zombies and sneak into the base. "But you both have lost so much weight." Holding back tears, I couldn't speak for a while. Finally, I stood up. "Mom, Dad, I'll get you some food." While tearing open the package of frozen dumplings, I wiped away my tears. I didn't want to cry, but the tears just wouldn't stop. I never knew how much my parents had suffered these months, but they chose not to tell me anything to keep me from worrying. Since a few days ago, electricity and water supply had gradually been restored. I cooked the dumplings on an induction cooker and served them, 2 full plates. My parents called me to join them, and I sat down naturally. The dumplings were steaming hot, and sitting around the dining table with my family felt as surreal as a dream. Looking at the time, it was already past midnight. Today was New Year's Day, even though the outside world is still harsh. I felt this was the happiest New Year I've ever had. Day 150 since the zombie outbreak. These days, I've gotten used to staying in this small 30-something square meter place with my parents. They sleep in the upstairs master bedroom, and I sleep on the living room sofa. At first, my dad didn't agree, insisting that I sleep upstairs with my mom, but after I firmly refused, he reluctantly agreed. The days spent reunited as a family made even the apocalyptic times bearable. We still seldom go outside, although the zombies seem to be under control, until the day the country declares it's all clear. There's always the risk of infection. I still exchange notes with Abigail every day. She was very envious when she learned that my parents risked their lives to come find me. I don't know why, but I've never heard her mention her own parents, and I didn't ask. Today marks the 170th day since the outbreak of zombies. Spring has now begun. The basic water and electricity networks have been fully restored, and aside from the closures and quarantines, everything seems just like it was before that day. As I was helping my mom prepare food and my dad was watering a nearly dead cactus, cheers suddenly erupted outside. What happened? My mom and I looked at each other and almost simultaneously pulled out our cell phones. As expected, a flurry of headlines had already been pushed to our phones. The zombies have been completely eradicated. We've endured and triumphed. Cheers and sounds of people running in the hallways reached us, and I just collapsed onto the ground. This nightmare had finally ended. Another school year begins. Who would have thought that the last time I was at school I was a freshman in military training, and now I've returned as a senior. I bumped into a few classmates, but they seemed to be whispering about me. I heard that Scarlett died of starvation, somehow. The rumor that I didn't help her has spread, but now, I don't care what they think of me, nor do I care if they isolate me. After such a long time living through the apocalypse, my personality has completely transformed. Just then, someone tapped me on the shoulder, and a cheerful voice came from behind. Hello there, my comrade in adversity. We finally meet. This time, let's talk face to face all night long.